No.
Test 1 2.
Testing.
Test 1 2.
Test. Okay.
All right.
Hi, everyone. If you have any public speaker cards that you want to submit for any agenda items, please do that now, and you can place them up here. Thank you. We'll start the meeting shortly.
Good evening. We'd like to officially call to order the July 1st, 2025 Parks, Recreation, and Community Resources Advisory Commission. Greg, may I ask you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kaylin, can we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Tullis.
Present.
Commissioner Warner.
Here.
Commissioner Maroney.
Here.
Commissioner Horowitz.
Here.
Commissioner Ellman.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Kaylin. At this time, staff would like to recommend the commission appoint a temporary chair until we reach item 11A on our agenda, which is the election of officers. At this time, we do not currently have a vice chair or chair selected, as our former chair and vice chair are no longer on the commission.
Are we doing that by motion? Or?
Yes, it would be by motion, please.
I would move that we name Barbara Ellman as the temporary chair for this meeting.
I'll second that.
Am I taking a vote for roll call? Okay. Commissioner Tullis.
Yes.
Commissioner Warner. Yes. Commissioner Maroney.
Yes.
Commissioner Horowitz.
Yes.
Commissioner Ellman.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Good evening. Next, we'll do announcements. Lisa?
Thank you, Commissioner Ellman. This is our upcoming city events presentation that we're going to pull up. This is something that we do each month, and it highlights the special events that are permitted through the special event permit program, our city-hosted special events that we may have, and excursions, and all the activities taking place in the community theater and the second story theater at the community center. I'm going to cue that up. Okay, so to begin with our permitted special events in the month of July, we have the JVA BVCA National Championships, starting our National Junior Championship run for the month, and that's July 7th through 11th. We have Shakespeare by the Sea, July 9th through the 10th. We have the AAU Hermosa Beach Championships from July 12th through the 19th. And then we have the AVP Junior National Championships from July 21st through the 25th. Next slide. As far as our city-hosted events, we have a summer community movie matinee in partnership with LA Galaxy on Sunday, July 13th. I'm going to hold off and talk more about that event in our Community Resources Director's report item because it is part of our celebration of Parks and Recreation Month. Next slide. For our city-hosted excursion in the month of July, we are going to the Festival of the Arts and Pageant of the Masters on July 20th. Last I checked, we still had a few tickets. Oh, we're sold out. But we are accepting a wait list. I'm so sorry. It's hermosabeach.gov/recreation. Should have checked today. They do go fast. And we definitely encourage anyone who is interested to sign up on the wait list because you do never know if spots may open up. Next slide. Okay, and on this next slide, we have all the activities that are happening in the community theater and the second story theater. I should say productions, not activities. We actually create a separate flyer for all of these productions that has more information on how you get tickets and the times of these productions, and you can find that at hermosabeach.gov/theater. And this concludes the upcoming city events presentation.
Okay, well, next we have presentations. So, Lisa, we're going to go through these one at a time. If we have questions, we should be asking them after each presentation, not wait till the very end.
That's correct.
Okay. So first we have the International Surf Festival pre-event presentation.
And we have Maria Bird here as the International Surf Festival representative to give the presentation.
Good evening. The International Surf Festival was established in 1962 and is currently a nonprofit 501c4 operation. The festival is co-sponsored by the LA Department of Beaches and Harbors, LA County Fire Department, and the cities and chambers of Torrance, Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach, and Manhattan Beach. The event promotes these 4 beach cities, our local lifeguard services, and physical fitness for thousands of participants. Our volunteer board of directors and event coordinators work hard to plan a family-oriented festival. The ISF coordinators are responsible for procuring the necessary beach use permits and their required insurance coverage for the festival. The ISF coordinators work with the individual event organizers to assist their events by providing tables, chairs, water, parking passes, banners, websites, advertising, and other operational needs. The International Surf Festival features exciting athletic events enjoyed by competitors and spectators from all over the world. For 2025, there will be events in the cities of Torrance, Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach, and Manhattan Beach. The events in Hermosa Beach will include on Friday night, there will be a lifeguard intercrew competition. This happens at the north side of the pier, and we get approximately 200 competitors. Saturday morning, there will be a 2-mile sand run. Again, that starts at the north side of the pier. They head north for a mile, and then they end up back at Hermosa Pier. And they expect about 100 runners for that. Later that morning, there'll be a dory race. This is a race done by different lifeguards from different agencies, and they expect about 20 rowers, and that's on the south side of the pier, and that's mostly in the surf line, so that's a pretty exciting event in the waves if there's surf. And then the last thing in the morning is youth water events, and that is swims and paddles for the youth, and they expect about 20 to 40 competitors for that. On Saturday night, it'll be the lifeguard taplin competition. Again, that's the north side of the pier. That'll be about 150 lifeguard competitors and about 80 junior lifeguards. And then Sunday morning is the grand finale. There's the peer-to-peer paddle race, and that starts in Manhattan Beach, ends in Hermosa Beach. And then the peer-to-peer swim, which of course starts in Hermosa Beach and ends in Manhattan Beach. And the paddle, we expect about 200 paddlers, and the swim about 1,000 swimmers. So these events draw spectators and competitors from both out of town and locally. This has a positive economic impact on the city of Hermosa Beach. The ISF offers many benefits to the community by creating a safe and enjoyable environment that's community-friendly and emphasizes local beach culture and traditions. When the ISF was established in 1962, Hermosa Beach was one of the few original founders, and we are very grateful for the ongoing partnership and continued support from the city of Hermosa Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or
I don't have any questions.
nice comments?
I do have nice comments. Your events
Thank
are
you.
always so well organized, and as someone who is nowhere near being a lifeguard or a paddler or a swimmer, it is so much fun to watch.
Thank you.
And so I just want to encourage people to come out because those night events, I've never seen anything like it, and they're really well organized and fun.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. And one thing I forgot to mention, the Australians will be in town this year. We have an exchange every 2 years. Every 2 years we'll go there, and then every 2 years the Australians go. I say we because I used to be a lifeguard, and I've been on that exchange, but that happens and they're coming back this time. So that'll be exciting to see. Thank you very much. Any other questions?
I would just say I think it's my favorite event, so I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, thank you.
It's days of fun, and we all know it's a great undertaking by everyone. It's obvious the amount of work that you all put into it, and thank you very much. It goes all day. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. There's an amazing team that is behind this. I'll pass that along at our next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, next we have JV BVCA National Championship pre-event presentation.
Commissioner Ellman, before we dived into this presentation, hi, Jeff. I just want to make note that the next three presentations, we actually do have an agenda item this evening pertaining to these three organizations and their long-term agreement application for their events from 2026 to 2028. I just wanted to remind the commission this is not the time to discuss that item. These presentations and any questions should be solely focused on their 2025 event this evening. And now we welcome Jeff Smith as the representative for the JVA BVCA tournament.
Thanks, Lisa. Can you hear me? Yeah. Oh, this one's better. All right. I had a PowerPoint. Yes. All right, and you just click the center one. It has a little video. I think if you click the picture, yeah. This kind of gives a little visual that operates. If not, we might not have to.
We might have technical difficulties with the video.
It's fine.
We sometimes do.
If we can't get it going, I'll just. It's not working.
It looks like we're unable to share the video at this time, unfortunately.
All right, here we go. All right, so the first slide is last year we had 400 individual pairs teams representing 60 volleyball clubs from across the country. We had 200 teams participating in our 5v5 and 3v3 competition formats. We had 50 college coaches in attendance, scouting the next generation of talents. We had 300 plus club coaches actively coaching and mentoring athletes on site. It's more than 1,000 families visiting Hermosa Beach and contributing to local tourism and the economy. The growth in Hermosa Beach legacy. We founded in Hermosa Beach in 2014. We launched with fewer than 200 teams, and we have grown steadily year after year through the community and club support. Our 2025 National Championship this year is sold out. We're expecting 500 plus individual pairs teams and 250 teams with the 5v5 and 3v3 collegiate format. It will be our largest event this year. Hermosa Beach has remained the home and heart of the BVCA movement and is the mecca of beach volleyball, as you guys know. Our local economic contributions in national championship, we have over 1,000 families, 300 plus coaches travel to Hermosa Beach for a five-day event. Visitors stay on the average of 4 or 5 nights, generating 4,000 to 5,000 hotel rooms. At hotel rates averaging $400 to $500 a night, total lodging revenue is approximately $1.6 to $2.5 million. Generates $224,000 to $350,000 in TOT for the city. Plus the permit fees, families spend an estimate $200 a day on food and beverages, with another $1 million to $1.2 million in food-related spending. Total projected spending on dining, shopping, hotels is $3 million to $3.5 million. This directly supports local restaurants,
shops, services, while showcasing Hermosa Beach as the thriving family-friendly destination. The broader economic impact and city growth, total estimation in economic impact is $3.5 million to $5 million. Drives revenue for hotels, rentals, hospitality providers, increases sales for local businesses and vendors. The TOT of $224,000 to $350,000 to the city. Positions Hermosa Beach as the national leader in beach volleyball junior events. Encourages repeat tourism and long-term economic benefits. Strengthens community identity and civic pride through large-scale, high-visibility events for family. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Any questions or comments?
I just had a question. You said that in 2025, the national championship was completely sold out. Is that for spectators or teams?
Teams. We are at max capacity right now. So we have our event next week, starting on Monday.
Got it. And it is a free event?
Yeah.
Thank you.
To watch, yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, just as I'm trying to understand a little bit more about the event, how many unique athletes, I know you mentioned the number of teams, but how many unique athletes will participate?
Well, we have all across the country, from Florida, Texas, New Jersey, Washington, Seattle, all across the states, from the ages of 11 years old to 18 years old. It's the premier event to get recruited for college, and we'll have every college here recruiting. And it gives them a chance to, so there are clubs like club soccer, they have club for beach volleyball. And
Yeah, I understand.
So then they bring all their whole club out here to participate in our tournaments. And so it's very focused on club-centric coaching, getting them to college.
But how many individual athletes will come?
This year, my event will have over 1,000 athletes, because it's 2-on-2 teams.
Right.
And so we have 500 teams, so 1,000 athletes.
1,000?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
The economic impacts, are you doing a survey or something? Or what is that
I've done this for a long time, and I've had a company in 2016 evaluate it, and what they came up with in 2016, if the average family spends $2,500 to $4,500, that's your range of 2.5 million to 4.5 million. And then I did a very extensive research on AI. I'm very into AI and kind of like diving down that rabbit hole. And a lot of that information came from AI with the TOT tax, how much families spend nationwide when they go to events. And so my evaluation of doing this for so long, that is what I came up with.
Would you be willing to do a survey of the groups that come this year to
Yeah.
the families and say, you know, how many days did you come?
Yeah.
How many people did you bring? And where did you stay? Those 3 pieces of information could be good.
And we have done that, and that's where the average, but it's gone up so much, so I'm sure from 2016, 17 we did it, it's a long time, so I'm sure the money's even more, and we definitely do that. I think the only question is how many athletes are staying in Hermosa. That would be the question, but I would say the majority of them try to stay location, because it's close to the event and traveling, and people Uber more than they rent a car. So I would say the majority of the hotels in Hermosa Beach are from our event.
Lisa, you're real busy, but could we work with them on a really simple survey? All 3 of the groups, actually.
Certainly, staff could help review the survey and have any suggestions for questions.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And we work closely with the beach house, and I can tell you their occupancy rate is it's up in the 90+ percentile of being occupied by our members.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
My question, it's to both you and Denny, is that if you come in for one, do you stay for the other?
That is a great question. Obviously, there are some memberships that cross over. And so I would say 30% will stay, another 40% will stay. And so they have different qualifications of how to qualify for nationals than I do. And so there might be parts of regions where they reach more kids in a different state that come out for his event. And vice versa for me. I might have kids in a different state that are more BVCA dominated than AAU. And so it just depends on the region and where your kind of target market is. But we do have a crossover, especially in California, teams in San Diego and up and down the coast.
Well, it's always a fun time because you hear the family, especially at the local pizza places out, and it's always enjoyable to talk to someone from another state. So really appreciate the extra visitors that we get. But thanks a lot for your time.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you.
it, Jeff.
We really appreciate it here, and we love coming back year after year.
We'll see you in a little while.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have AAU, Hermosa Beach Championship.
And we have Denny Lennon giving the presentation.
All right, and I have a presentation as well. Very good. Good evening, everybody. It's good to see you again. Thomas, I want to note that you said our event was your favorite last year. Okay. All right. So first, I want to make mention of the 32nd AAU Hermosa Beach National Volleyball Championships. Now, I've often tagged Hermosa Beach as like Williamsport, Pennsylvania is to Little League Baseball as the destination. That Hermosa Beach really has become that. I'll explain more as I go along, but we've been here since then, when the Mermaid used to be around and the poop deck used to be around. So it's been, so maybe I'll tag us as the granddaddy of them all, like the Rose Bowl. All right, next slide, please. This is a quick overview on the Amateur Athletic Union. It's an organization that was founded in 1888. Really, its intention at that time was to codify sports for the athletic clubs. And what they found out was once they started to print rules that the middle population and the lower populations started to learn about how to play athletics. So they really are, they preceded even the modern Olympic Games in teaching our country how to play sports. Since that time, they are now currently over 1 million members across the country in some 45 sports. They're cut up into like 55 districts, not unlike our states. And that's how we operate, through the districts, to both qualify and to earn points in order to come to these prestigious national championships. I want to make note that the AU Indoor Volleyball Championships that take place every year in Orlando is the world's largest volleyball tournament. It is an economic impact of $826 million to Central Florida. It's a massive event. It's been verified by Guinness Book of World Records as the world's largest youth sporting event. That executive committee, which I'm part of, but I'm the beach part, that executive committee will be attending this year's competition out here, and that's a first. So they're excited to come out and see what all the hubbub's about. I follow that up with 1957, AAU was sanctioning beach volleyball in Southern California. And it was 1994, right here in your beautiful town, that we started programming. So again, from 55 districts, one of the things you should know, whether we're in Hawaii or New Orleans, and we attend some of these, and others we have good event operators, but the thing they say is, and now qualifying for the Hermosa Beach National Championships. Especially when we ran this one format, Queen King of the Court format, they were qualifying for that. And so it's constantly that Hermosa Beach is mentioned in all of these cities. So I like the idea that everybody knows that this is where we culminate. So our national championships coming up, it's the 32nd. Again, I'll show you more about this team if you go to the next slide. Okay, so besides bringing, oh no, that's actually gonna be the next one. So our numbers are similar in nature, as Jeff already mentioned. We had roughly about those amount of teams last year, and we also had a recruiting seminar that allowed the athletes to learn directly from Division I coaches about what the do's and don'ts are of recruiting. And we also, I liked our medal ceremonies last year, which some of you attended, where we tried to mix city leaders with Olympians to hand out the medals to our young athletes. And I think that went over pretty well. Okay, so not only are we qualifying from the 55 districts or many of those for them to come to Hermosa Beach. But then we identify the teams that win here to go play in international competition. And so the way this works is last year's 14-year-old champions in both the boys and the girls were fully funded by the AAU to attend the Gymnasiad in Serbia, which is a multi-sport competition, not unlike the Olympics. Had some 16,000 athletes from all around the world that were attending in Slatibor, Serbia. And you should know that your teams did quite well. Qualifying out of here, one team from San Diego, our girls team beat Brazil in a thrilling 15-13 third set to win the gold medal, and the boys took the bronze by beating Ukraine in the final. So they came by way of qualifying out of the national championships here, and it actually snowed 2 days, delaying the start of the competition. So we were almost playing beach volleyball in the snow. But fortunately, it turned around, and it was a terrific competition. We work closely with the Day at the Beach and with the JVC, BVCA. I also want to make note that JVA and AAU work together on the indoor world too. They co-promote a number of tournaments for indoor across the country. So it's a nice relationship that these two organizations have. It also should be noted that both of these organizations are junior organizations. That's the focus. It's very clear as to who and how they're operated and they're organized. They're not owned upline by any entity. It's the AAU and then it's the JVA. And those are the organizations that work together both indoor and on the beach. And then Mark Pa'alui and A Day at the Beach is, of course, and has been since at the direction of the City Council, when they directed us to work together, has been the one who's setting up our site. And that site will mimic the BVCA setup. I want to make note that it has been very fortunate for both of us, both our organizations, to have the same dates each year. That's a very important part of families planning to come from different parts of the country, and they know which event they're coming to. And so they know roughly the week after, 4th of July will be BVCA, and then the week after that will be AAU. That, I think, as much as our insistence on giving opportunities to young people through programming in our respective areas, that stabilization of the calendar has been really important to our growth and to bringing more families to Hermosa Beach. So again, our setup is going to mimic BVCA's. Thankfully, Jeff and his robot friend did the research, so you've already heard about the economics. So we just did a rough one, which basically comes up with about the same. I think between the two of us, it's safe to say it's close to a $7 million impact on the Hermosa Beach area. And I think it's time for questions. Comments? Concerns?
I'll jump in with the question. Will you work with staff to do a real simple survey so we can actually pin down
Love
where
to.
everybody's staying and how many people are really in town? There's no question it has an economic impact.
Yep.
Yep. And the month of July, I know we're working hard and making this really exciting.
Yep.
I mean, we need to leverage this. So, thanks for coming.
Yeah, it'd be no problem. And what's nice is that, as I mentioned, the executive committee that runs the indoor event in Orlando, they came up with that $826 million number. They'll be out here, and it'll be very easy to say, hey, at the request of the city, they've asked us to do a formal inquiry. And I think that'll go a long way towards that. I also want to give a note, forget who it was, but they came up with the slogan of July is for juniors. Like that. That's good. That's good. Somebody came up with that. That was strong. That was a good play.
Thanks, Denny. As usual, it's like Jeff, it's a lot of fun to come down, and I did enjoy giving out those medals.
Yeah.
So call me anytime.
I will.
Anybody else?
Yeah, same question, just to confirm. Did you say the same number of athletes? You'd say 1,000 unique athletes?
Yeah, pretty close. I think our final number was closer to like 478 or something like that.
Okay.
Last year, and so it's in the same neighborhood. And we, like Jeff, offer both a club championship and a pairs championship. The formatting's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And so some of those
So
are
there's like a
rollovers.
18U girls and 18U girls club division or something like that?
It's high, we put it more on like high school, middle school for the club part.
Okay.
So more mimics like scholastic competition, but that's a club competition. And then it goes by age groups on even numbered years.
Yeah.
With 15s thrown in there for the pairs competition.
Okay.
And we have 10 and unders, and one of our 10 and unders last year, they're unbelievable. It'll freak you out how good they are. But one of their rallies went really long. We posted on social media, and I don't know where that number is. I know at the conclusion of our event, it was like at 1.2 million, and now it's way up because it's just these 10-year-olds that are just making a spectacular play.
Nice.
And so it shows off the city as well.
Yeah, I also wanted to ask a little bit more about the logistical sharing between you and JVA, BVCA. So kind of specifically, maybe you can help me understand exactly what is the takedown that they do and like what things do you leave, I guess, at that transition point, what things just stay the same from the previous?
More or less where all the courts are situated will stay the same. But the nets swap out, of course.
So you bring your own nets.
Each group brings their own nets, and so we'll share some of the other, like the court lines, or all the posts that are put in, and then we share the same vendor when it comes to security, the same vendor when it comes to the portables, and any of the other, electrical items or anything like that.
And does AAU have sponsorship, like advertisement, like sponsorship and placards out there? And
we do
like
have
that?
display sponsors, but we're really not too heavy on that.
Okay.
I would point to both groups really. I certainly have unique vendors as it relates to the sport of beach volleyball. It'd be something like socks,
sand socks,
or specifically like a Slunks. Or like Smack or something like that, but it's more specific to the sport that only would end up here at these events and being exposed at these events.
So basically the nets need to be reset up, maybe some signage.
That's right. The
that's
nets,
kind of the extent
nets,
of,
and then the tents too.
and the tents. Okay.
And the tents all go out. So we have a little bit different setup on how we do our tents. But yeah, most of it is.
So it's not a dramatic changeover really in terms of.
It's tedious, but both of us have crews that assist, or Mark. Right, well, like Mark will come in, he'll lay out the skeleton, and then each of us have crews that'll put up the court lines and the like.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
Anybody else? Thanks, Denny. We'll see you in a little while.
Great, thank you.
Next, we have AV Junior National Championship pre-event presentation.
Kaylin, do we have Al, Jeff, or Andrew on the line for the presentation? Or Amari, sorry.
I am not seeing any of them online.
So it appears we do not have AVP present to give their pre-event presentation this evening. They were notified in the same way that AAU and JVA BVCA were that their presentation was due.
So I'm just going to touch on this because I know it comes back later, but because they're not here, that is part of their agreement.
It is part of their agreement to give a pre and post event presentation.
Okay, so we'll just come back to that later in the evening then.
We can definitely talk about that during the agenda item.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Bark in a Park.
All right, let me go ahead and give a verbal introduction here. The dogs got very excited for their turn. All righty, so can everyone hear me okay? This item is a presentation from the community group Bark for a Park, whom are advocating for a dog park in Hermosa Beach. Tonight's presentation is an informational presentation and serves as a time for the commission to hear the group's proposal and all the work that they have put into it. The commission may ask questions regarding this proposal, but tonight does not serve as the time to discuss whether or not we should have a dog park in Hermosa Beach. There is no action needed on the presentation itself. The presentation itself is a receive and file item. Should the commission wish to request action on this item, the commission may do so during the future agenda item section of the agenda, which is at the end of our agenda. An example of what the commission may do at that time is request staff to bring a future agenda item forward, requesting that the commission consider creation of a subcommittee to work alongside Bark for a Park to make a formal recommendation to City Council on this matter. So Carla Buck is here to give the presentation. She is a representative of Bark for a Park, so you can go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. Again, thank you guys so much for letting me speak tonight. Back in March, when the City Council made a sort of request of this committee to actually look into a dog park, I did a very brief comment and also presented a detailed proposal, which the City Council got, all the current commissioners got. I'd be more than happy to send it to you guys again. I'm not going to go through all that detail tonight, but I do want to actually touch on some ideas as you guys move forward in considering a dog park, some ideas of how to get there. Oh, I have a clicker. Summer, if I know how to work it. Huh? Yeah. What do I do? Oop, shoot. I'll get there. Okay. So briefly, I want to try to cover basically what would be the case, what's the case for actually having a dog park, possible locations, including some criteria that you may consider, a few key design choices that you may look at when you're looking at a dog park, estimated costs, and funding ideas. Oop, the wrong way. Get there, I'll figure it out. So we've done estimates that say we think that the Hermosa Beach has more than 3,000 dogs in this city, and we don't have a dog park. If you want to let your dog run free, you either have to do it without anybody looking illegally, or you have to go and drive somewhere else. We launched a petition in early January to sort of say, do you want a dog park in the city? And to date, we have more than 1,200 signatures, people saying yes, yes, please. So what are the benefits of a dog park? So we really think there's three key ones. One is community. You can see from these volleyball people, volleyball is a community in Hermosa, as is surfing, as is people that play pickleball or Little League. So dog owners, when they get together, that creates community. Having a space for them to get together, to talk, to meet their dogs and exchange ideas, that strengthens our neighbors. And not only that, but if we have a place we can walk to versus drive to, promotes our healthy lifestyle, which is a lot of, I think, what this commission is trying to promote. It also helps our dogs. Dog socialization, whether it's pet to pet, pet to owners, but also just lets them run free. Everyone needs exercise. And then in terms of kind of a citywide sort of thing, one is, it gives people less excuse for that off-leash behavior, and there have been studies that show it actually really does enhance the community, potentially even enhancing property values. So again, there are benefits to our city to actually having a dog park. So we have 11 possible locations. I am not going to go through them all tonight. But these are all locations that people have brought to us that have their ideas like, what about this and what about this? And all of them have merit. You guys had a packet tonight. There's an appendix. All of those are outlined in there. We're going to just go over a couple of them, but briefly before I get to that, there are 3 locations that we've identified in Valley. One of them is Valley, the northwest part. The other one is Valley, the southeast part. That's near the Kiwanis Club. There's another one that's Valley Park East, which is roughly between where the bathrooms are in Valley and the band shell. There are also 2 that are on the east side of the city. One of them was actually brought by Councilman Jackson. It's a portion owned by the water company that's on 16th and Prospect, and there's a portion of Edith Roadway, the south part, that could be a part in the east part of the city. There are 2 in the south part of the city. One is Bicentennial Park, which is Ardmore and 4th. The other one is a portion of South Park on the northeast side near the bathrooms. Kind of a funky area, but I'll get to that. There are 3 in the center. One is Noble Park, not the entire thing, but the eastern portion of it. Also in the community center, the East Lawn. And then lastly, Clark Field, which a lot of people use as an informal dog park anyway, as either one, there's a portion actually near there's one of the fields, but there's also an idea that some cities have brought up where actually there is maybe a pop-up dog park in Clark Field when there are no sports being run. Like that sort of, there's 2 or 3 months in there where nothing is done. The lastly is the beach. I just have to talk about it because you're violently for it or you're violently against it. So as you guys go through this process, part of it is you're looking at locations. What are the criteria? I urge you to come up with a criteria of which to objectively evaluate. We came up with 4. One of those is it walkable or is there good parking? Second one is, in our dense city, you probably are going to impact some neighbors. So can you impact the least amount of neighbors, or if you are impacting them, figure out a way to like impact them in the least possible way? Third one is size and comfort. Some of these are relatively small, but there's a few that are actually 8,000 square feet or more, which actually is a pretty good size for a dense city's dog park. And then comfort's more of like, is there shade? The last thing is kind of funky one. It's this idea that are we, in putting a dog park in an area, keeping it from another high value use? So for instance, let's just say we did pick the lawn bowling area, which we're not suggesting. That would keep that from being able to do lawn bowling, right? So that's an example of the trade-offs, as you know, you have to make. So, busy slide, urge you to look at it. We tried to do our analysis, which said you look at these 11 locations against that criteria, which have positives, which have negatives, and also the summation, what's the general size. Tonight, I'd really just like to go through 5 of them, and also people are always saying, well, what do you think? Well, our opinion, and this is just ours, because as you go through this work, you guys are going to be able to come up with what you think is dog park viable, but also what would be good locations, is that maybe the city might have a primary dog park. We think the 3 most viable locations are Valley Northwest, I'm going to go through these in more in detail, the Valley Southeast, and Noble Park East. We also think, it's funny, you'll talk to people, if you know Hermosa, right? If you live in the north, you're like, I'm not walking to the south. If I'm in the south, I'm not walking to north or east. So even though we're only, 2 square miles. But so if the city had, there was funding, and if there was sort of appetite for it, there's maybe a possibility for a second dog park, and we think the best possible one is the South Peak Northeast. Now, South Park Northeast, which I'll go through. And then just because of the dog, I want to go through the idea of maybe could we experiment with having a pop-up dog park and the beach. Okay, so I'm going to go through those options. The first one, primary option, is Valley Park Northwest. So I've got a map up there that is roughly, and I know you guys have this presentation, you've got Valley Park, you've got Gould on the north, and Morningside on the west, Hermosa Vista School. There's this patch of land there, city-owned, that's roughly between 14,000 to 17,000 square feet. We actually, in our surveys, asked people, what do you think of these locations? 61% of the people who have taken the survey said they think that's a good location. A lot of people didn't answer anything one way or the other. We like it because it's walkable for many people. It's pretty underutilized. You sit there and you watch that area. There are people that walk past and forth, but they're not really doing a lot of activities in that area. Good parking and shade. It does impact 5 to 6 homes. The one thing, and as a sort of a kind of a thing you might work through, is that kids are going to walk between Gould and Hermosa Vista on the Morningside thing. If you want to limit the interaction between the dogs and the kids, potentially, you could actually create some sort of privacy barrier, which I'll get into some options later. The second thing is Valley Park Southeast. So here's our map. You have Valley Park. Valley is on the east side. It's the part where Kiwanis and Rotary is. There's this park as you go towards the west, towards where that area, a picnic table is. There's an area there that, again, is relatively underutilized. You could get about a 9,000 to 10,000 square foot park there. It all depends on sort of how much space you have between the houses and how far you go into actually where the picnic area is. 60% of our survey people said they love this location. Again, it's walkable for many residents, mostly underutilized, good parking and shade, and it does impact homes, 3 homes directly. The last one we suggest is actually Noble Park East. It's a big park. We're certainly not suggesting you take the entire park and make it into a dog park. But if you took the eastern part, maybe roughly bordered by 14th Street and 15th Street, and made that into a long dog park, that could be at least 10,000 square feet. About 50% of our survey respondents said that would be a good spot. Again, walkable it's the most central location. It's really lovely right now because you have this undulating mixed type of surfaces, which is fun for dogs. It does impact 2 neighbors and La Playita, and then it does have the parking, but we know in the summer it can get busy. So those are the 3 primary. I also want to go over the secondary, this kind of weird little area. This was actually suggested by Councilman Jackson. If you think about South Park and you've got this northeast part where the new bathrooms are, and you've got Valley on the east, there is this kind of weird area, but you could actually fence it, and you could create basically a 4,700 square foot area. We think that's probably a little small for a primary dog park, but if indeed you just choose to say that maybe we could have 2, because this would serve the south part of the city. It's walkable. The great thing is it impacts no neighbors, and it has really great shade. The other thing, though, is that you guys have just done a thing where you've actually converted the surface to some drought-tolerant stuff. That was a project, I think, that just was recently undertaken. You probably have to take that out because there's small trees growing. Okay, so last one, just on the beach. Okay. When we talk to people about the beach, you're either violently for it or violently against it. We try to distill what does that mean. If you say, yes, dogs on the beach, well, part of it's we own our own beach, which we actually have the ability to sort of control that. And by the way, there's other cities, this whole idea like the Coastal Commission, they worked with other cities to work through, have a dog beach. But we own our own beach. Dogs love running on it. And there are a couple of very successful examples in Del Mar and Long Beach. But then people are saying no. Well, part of it seems to be like there's 3 arguments. One is that having dogs on the beach is a health hazard. And it's partly poop on the beach or in the water. Second thing is actually this thought that maybe dogs running on the beach, that maybe they interact with other patrons and mess up all that, and it creates negativity that you wouldn't have. The last thing is actually, if we had a dog beach, suddenly we could become a magnet that we may not want to for other people coming just for that feature. So let's talk about that. So we actually had some long conversations with Long Beach and Del Mar and their parks and rec experts at how does it work? And do you have health hazards? And do you have negative interactions? Well, for both cities, they both said they don't have any health hazards. They test the water regularly. They test the poop on the beach. They're like, it's all good. And the only thing is Long Beach does clean that portion of the beach a little bit more frequently than they do the rest of the beach. And then in terms of negative interactions, they're like, we don't have any more than we would normally have in any other area, dog beach or dog park or non-dog park. So for those, there's good examples like those first 2 no's, maybe they aren't really no's. So the other thing is that it would maybe attract too many visitors. So Del Mar has a really interesting thing. They have almost their entire beach available at certain times. One of the things they do is some parts of the beach are only available seasonally for dogs. So, like non-summer. And then they have some parts of the beach that are only available 6 to 8 a.m. And then you gotta get off. So if this, you decide that this is a possibility, there could be an experiment, which I'll call a pop-up, which other cities have done pop-ups, where you designate a portion of the beach. Maybe the one that most often comes up is the south part, let's say the end of it to maybe First Street. And you say, only September 15th to May 15th, only 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., maybe 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., whatever. And you present it as an experiment with a clear purpose. You'd have to figure out how is it successful and see if that might work as a lovely option in a time that really it's a relatively underutilized asset. Okay, but now that I've kind of talked about a couple different locations, the one thing I'll say is as you go through this process, you may select a location that where it does impact neighbors. So one thing you might do is prior to just waiting and seeing who shows up at the council meeting, you could actually interview the neighbors and you could say, what do you think? Do you have a dog? Do you not? What's your objections, et cetera? And try to listen to them beforehand to see if there's things you could maybe do to actually mitigate that. We know that's very time intensive, but if it's something you choose to do, we have volunteers that at your direction could help you do some of that legwork. So a couple of things. I'm not going to go through all the design issues, and there's a lot of this, but I really like to highlight 4 design issues that will be critical in terms of how you design it. And we have a lot of best practices. I could go on forever, but I'm not going to. The first one is that if you have a big enough space, the best practice is to have a small dog area and a large dog area. Why? Well, let's just look at those dogs. I mean, sometimes you have a small dog. I have a small dog. I didn't think he'd be a coward, but he really is. He gets very intimidated. So partly from a safety or aggression, it just helps make less incidents. And how it usually happens is you pick a pound cutoff, 30 pounds, 25 pounds. Small dog owners can go into the big area. Big dogs can't go into the small area. The second design thing has to do with sort of fencing. So really, the best practice is you have to have a 6-foot high fence. Classically, it's either chain link or steel. We've had estimates we've gotten from various people. They're kind of about the same. But as you move forward and thinking about how this could be a positive thing for the community, you may consider privacy barriers, a green wall for aesthetics, or even sometimes people have used just on one wall like a solid thing, just to reduce interactions. So one of the most important things in terms of it is surface, and that ranges from dirt to turf. And I don't necessarily want to go through all this on slide. You guys have all these details, but this is your biggest variability in terms of how much this thing would cost to build. It's also your biggest variability in terms of whether people like it. So dirt is the one where Redondo Beach is sort of set up. Most people say it's dirty, they have to wash their dogs, they don't like that. Beverly Hills just did a study that sort of said, like, that's one of the reasons why people weren't using some of their dog parks, is because they just didn't like the dirty surface. So, but it is the cheapest. And you go all the way to sort of grass, which is lovely, harder to maintain because dogs come and they dig. You have things like DG, which is what you put on the path, for the great thing about it is it's ADA compliant, but it's also could be dirty, complaints from that. Most of the dog parks in this area have wood mulch, but you have to make sure that you're picking the right wood mulch that's actually not harmful to the dogs, but it's also not necessarily ADA compliant. So you have to figure out how you could design it so that it has some mulch places for people to be if you're in a wheelchair. And lastly, I'm going to say that one of the Cadillac things of surfaces is having antimicrobial artificial turf. That is one where, like, as you're going through and looking at dog parks, Glen Ella Park and Marina Del Rey is a great example. They're lovely surfaces. They're just expensive to put in and expensive to maintain. And the last design feature is the idea is that as this is designed, and I personally do not think you need to hire a dog park designer like some of the people do. I just don't think it's that complicated. But when you look at all the studies of dog parks, one of your things about is setting the tone to make sure it is a good place to be, that people are following the rules and they're getting along. So signage can make a big difference in that, and the rules that you set. There's a ton of different rules and things you can consider. There's actually been a study that shows actually that people are going to pick up more poop, not based upon the number of trash cans, but how you do your signage. And lastly, some of the things that people do is your biggest conflicts happen to be between owners who have a conflicting view on what is acceptable pet behavior, like no humping or excessive barking, or their owner behavior, like don't be on your phone and watch that your dog's pooped, and pay attention. So there are ways that dog parks have put signage and put education that makes these people behave better, or they know what is expected of them. Okay. So we have done some estimates. You guys in your appendix have the top level estimate of that, where we said if we had a 10,000 square foot dog park, we think the cost is roughly $92,000 to $250,000. That's with about a 20% contingency. We didn't estimate maintenance yet. Well, we also we know the city has a lot of CIPs, some of which are unfunded. We know there's no funding for this. But we would like the city, if you move forward, to consider potentially earmarking the amount of money that they have for licenses, of which you really only have, last year you had 1,368 licenses. We think there's 3,000 dogs or more. I run into so many people who don't get it because they don't know about the license, or they don't get it because they don't see a value. So I do think there's an effort to be involved to if this was the case, to require a license to do this park, not necessarily Hermosa, but require it, to do marketing to increase that, maybe increase the fee. And some cities have actually done it where you have a license and you have to pay a little extra to actually use the park. But there's a couple things just to get this number a little higher. The rest of it, you're looking at it. We have people here that really, really want this park, and they really want to work with you to potentially help with the fundraising, working with you, not only to put in the park, to help with maintenance. So that is something I'd hope that you might consider as we move forward. Okay, we think an off-leash dog park in Hermosa will be a great add to the city. We think there's many viable locations, and we really want to partner with the city in researching your options, developing solutions, helping you with funding, ongoing programming. So, thank you very much for your time.
Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments?
Yeah, sure. So thank you very much. The presentation was really excellent, easy to follow, easy to understand. I think it's important you have a constituency that's here to help, as you suggest, in many different ways. So that would be a useful asset. A little feedback and notes on the presentation, and I'm a detail-oriented person, so excuse me of some of this, but I think the criteria could use a little more refinement. For example, I think the beach was recommended as good for comfort, but it has 0 shade, but the description of comfort was about shade, so that was just kind of confusing. I think on the sites, one note, I don't know if the Clark Field location, or the pop-up suggestion, I understand it, but I also know from coaching baseball that field is chained and locked 2 months out of the year. I think 2 of those months that you were hoping to use it. So like February and August, I'm pretty sure it's chained and closed, unfortunately. So that may reduce the viability or timing availability for that. I did notice the surface was the high-cost item, and I was wondering if you knew whether or not used athletic turf could be repurposed and used as a turf surface.
You mean like a grass turf? Or was
Like
it?
Miracosta has a turf baseball field.
Yep.
But that turf gets replaced every X years, and there's plenty of athletic fields where they're ripping out the turf because it needs to be replaced. But it's still relatively decent turf, but they just replace it every 5 years, every 10 years.
You know, that's a great thing to
that.
look into. We did not look into that one.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, that I just thought that might be a way to help bring down the cost. And then you already covered my other question, which was licensed versus unlicensed dogs in Hermosa. So thank you for doing the research on that.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Tracy?
It was such a well-done presentation, and as I reviewed it earlier, every time I had a question, you seemed to answer it as I was going through. Little questions that might be more for staff, but how much is a dog license in Hermosa Beach? I'm sorry, my cat's
No. I don't have that in front of me. I apologize, I don't. 25? It's spayed or unspayed, and there's an allowance for senior dogs.
Just something to consider in terms of the money, because I don't know the logistics and the ins and outs of how the city spends the money, but I know that throughout the city, there are like dog stands where you get the poop bags.
Yep.
And I'm assuming that the city replenishes those bags and maintains those stands. And so just think about the money and how there's already a use for, and I don't know whether they're using the dog license fees, but just something else to consider is the money is clearly already probably going somewhere.
You know, and it could be, it just goes in a pool, but you're right, there are money. There's obviously dog-related expenses that are already occurring. I think, that $28,000, we just think it's low. I mean, you're doing, we actually think there's more than 3,000 dogs. So part of it's, even if you could if you could double that, that's still less than 3,000. Or if you could, there's ways to jigger it. Like we have a couple of friends that they're not even allowed to get a license because their dog's got an allergy to rabies or something like that. So maybe I just think there's ways to increase that money.
I thought your suggestion to survey neighbors was really smart. We've done some things in the city that created some issues between neighbors and use, and we've seen that go back and forth like a pickleball. And so that's a really, really smart thing to put into your presentation. So it was just really well done, and I've got more notes, but we'll get there.
A lot of work obviously went into this. Can you just briefly tell us, I see you had a survey, somebody must have went to all these dog parks, somebody had to do some design research. Can you tell us how many people were involved and where you got all this information?
So I'll tell you, we have a core group of 10 to 12 that sort of has all done various sort of pieces. A lot of it is myself and my husband. You know what, I have a job, but I also really want to park. And I think part of it is, this group, I think, sort of said, how do we put our money where our mouth, our effort where our mouth is? We want it, but we want to help you. So that's why we said, let's do this research. I've probably gone to 40 dog parks.
What was the survey?
Okay, so in January, we launched Hermosa Beach. If you go to hermosabeachdogpark.com or barkforpark.com, you've seen these signs with these QR codes. You can access a survey on there. Basically say, would you like a dog park in Hermosa Beach? We ask if they're a Hermosa Beach citizen. We ask, do they want to get involved? We ask what locations they would like. We added way more locations than the original survey, but that's what got launched in January.
What do you want, what do you think the commission should do next?
I'm sorry, say that
What do
again?
you think the commission should do next? Now, you've had 11 candidates. Obviously, there's got to be an effort to whittle these down.
Yeah.
What do you think we should do next?
Well, I'm novice to this whole thing. I think that Lisa talked about, like a subcommittee, which is, I think, where you kind of roll up your sleeves and do work. You do a process similar where you look at the 11 locations. Have you missed any? But I don't know if you have. And criteria, you can refine it. We just did some suggestions. There's some that you may automatically discard and go, and you whittle it down. And let's say you got to the 3 that I suggested. Maybe from that, you basically survey the neighbors from that and see what comes up. I think you probably also want to walk the locations with a public works person, so they maybe point some stuff that maybe you didn't see, like, I don't know, drainage or something. You probably do want to see a few best practices dog parks just to see them, especially if you're not a dog person. And I don't know, I'm assuming that what you want to do eventually is come up with a recommendation to the city. I don't know if you recommend the location first and you come back and you estimate the cost, or you actually fully estimate that you do the location and the estimated cost and then come to the city. I don't know that, because I guess that's maybe at least a question. The fastest way to do it is you come down and you say, here's the 1 or 2 locations we think. You do a more estimated cost and you come to the city and say, this is what we think the plan is. Can you put it as a CIP? And then we figure out how to do the funding. And when we do, once you have that, you say, we want to move forward with Valley Northwest. And we think roughly we're going to have to raise, I made it up, $200,000. Then we go, okay, great. Is it okay if we start helping?
All right, the presentation was a home run. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that great presentation. Full disclosure, I did help Carla and the group launch this campaign, so I know how much work went into this and how passionate you all are. I just wanted to let the city attorney know that. I was in the beginning of the process, not so much towards the end. One question I had was, did you ever determine hours when the dog park could be used? Would it be every single day of the week, very early, how late into the night do you foresee?
So again, when I said kind of rules, that whole page, that's one of the details within that. A lot of cities will do like a sunrise to sunset, which could vary. But if you really want it to be useful for the city, you would want to have it so some people that are going to work maybe at 7 a.m. Like it's the same hours as in the morning as like a worker, so 7 a.m. And you don't want to have it past like dinner time, maybe 6. But that's up to this group to kind of come up with that. But 7 to 6, 7 to 7 is a normal time, especially since I don't think we'd want to have lights on with this thing.
Got it. And then what would you say to people that say, hey, there's already a dog park in Redondo, there's a couple in Manhattan Beach. What do you say to them, and how does your suggestion here for Hermosa differ from those parks? I mean, it's walkable.
Yeah, I think the thing is, there's not only that, okay, so it's walkable. For all those other ones, you do have to drive. And if you look at like some of the cities, the plan thing they've had, that we really want to promote a healthy, walkable lifestyle. That is part of a tenet of our city. The other thing is, I can't tell you, we had this dog park during COVID, we're on this empty lot, and I met so many great people that live in Hermosa, or maybe they live very nearby. They're my neighbors. I'll go to like a nameless dog park and I'll kind of whatever, but you're from all over. I mean, you meet people, we have this pop-up dog park on our walk street. We meet people that are our neighbors, and it's fantastic because it's a community. So I think that's why it's a valuable asset. That's why Redondo won't work or Manhattan won't work. This is us. It's for our dogs. It's for our community.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Carla, I get to ask questions too.
I'm sorry.
First of all, we've talked numerous times, and you've obviously done a lot of work. I was up in Carmel for a month, and I talked to a lot of people up there about how their beach works. It just works. The dogs, the people. The one thing I think you need to think about when it comes to the beach is that we use our beach for beach activities. Up in Carmel, they don't. They don't sun on the beach much. It's always too foggy. But it's fair to look at it. It's there, and we need to open up the conversations and decide where we're going and what is definitely in, what's definitely out. A couple questions is the northeast corner of Valley Park, behind the bathrooms, where the children's play area is, in that corner there. I was wondering if you looked at that area. The stairs come down, and there's a grass area there. There's a lot of trees. I really struggle, and you haven't really confirmed that the neighbors are okay with this or not. Putting a dog park in front of someone's house is pretty iffy for me. Again, there's a lot of conversations to be had here. So I personally have been looking around in that area behind, I live almost next door to South Park. That area behind the bathroom, as you said, is an excellent idea because there's a wall, there's a business, there's no homes around it. So I was wondering if you had looked at the northeast corner of Valley Park and just there was something about it that you didn't think about?
So I want to make sure I've got it. So, are you talking right on the corner of Gould and Valley? Right there?
Right, the hill comes down, so it's not street level there. It is low.
Right.
And I just happened to be there today and playing on the slide. And I was just curious if there was a reason that it hadn't come up. Did someone look at it and say, oh, there's children around here? So again, I just struggle. We are so early into this conversation, but for me personally, I struggle after being on the pickleball subcommittee with how residents do have rights to a sense of privacy and peace. So, but I can't say more about this presentation. You and I talked about it at the very, very beginning, and you are the only person out of 5 people that I've met with that finally came through and said, yes, I will start something, I will look at this, and I will get back to you, and you did. And you've proven that you have the following for this, so kudos to you. Have you contacted any neighbors that would live next to these areas yet?
Well, we thought about it, and then we said we wanted to wait.
Okay.
We wanted to wait because we wanted to do it under your direction. And, even then it's like, what would be the questions you would want to ask? So it's, we had people that were ready to go, and we're like, let's wait. So no, we have not.
And have you thought about the maintenance and the locking of gates and all that, how that might work?
No, I mean, we know that you do need to do locking gates, and we know there's some maintenance.
Okay.
I know the elements of the maintenance. What we haven't gotten yet is the sort of costs. And I tried to get the city in terms of the current maintenance costs for some of these areas, and I don't have that. We have somebody that was trying to reach out Manhattan Beach and figure out how much their maintenance costs.
For that new enlarged dog park area?
Right, and what they've done before, they're smaller areas, but we don't have those numbers yet.
And have we thought about the difference between a dog park and a dog run?
So those terms really don't mean anything.
Okay.
I'm going to say New York City has 2-acre parks that are dog runs, and then you have dog parks that are 2,000 square feet.
Okay.
So it's kind of, you could pick a name. So I think, people have sometimes said it's really small. We're not going to have a 1 to 2 acre park. But I think actually if we had an 8,000 square foot park, that'd be a good park.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. If anyone else has something that they want to say, we would ask you to come back during public comment. There are a lot of you here. You're all very passionate, and if you have something to say, you're more than welcome to say it. I will say I'm a little disappointed there aren't more dogs in the room, but I get it.
This is Rhodey. Rhodey is always here.
So, thank you very much, Carla. It was an excellent presentation. Okay, so next we have the Community Resource Director's report.
Thank you, Commissioner Ellman. Go ahead and cue up the presentation. Next slide. All right. The first item to report is a reoccurring item on this portion of the agenda, and it's really an update on City Council direction on items that were previously on the Commission's agenda or new items that have been requested of the Commission from City Council. So really the first update is that the Mind Travel Live to Headphone Silent Piano Concert that the Commission had recommended for approval was approved by City Council on June 23rd. So we are actively working with that organization. They are working with the Coastal Commission to get a permit. It was requested from the Coastal Commission that they do so. And their first event will take place on its scheduled date, which is August 19th, and then again on October 19th. At that same meeting on June 23rd, Council did defer 2 items to the Parks Commission, and the first was to review and discuss how to provide access to a pool for our community. The Parks Master Plan did determine that the best course of action to respond to the community's desire for a pool was for the city to explore joint use agreements to provide access, easier access to a pool in a surrounding city to our residents. Staff has pending conversations with Redondo Union High School and plans to reach out to surrounding agencies once we have completed our busy summer season of programming and events to really act on that recommendation of the Parks Master Plan, but really to respond to Council's direction. Staff will bring a full report to the Commission in the upcoming months to really determine if additional action should be taken on this matter, perhaps having a subcommittee work with staff to explore the joint use agreements. Really, we'll have a full report with some options for the Commission in the coming months. And we will also reach out to the community group that is advocating for a pool to invite them to give a presentation to the Commission at the same meeting that we bring that future agenda item forward. The second item, oh, sorry, not yet. Good job, though, Mari. You're trying to get ahead of me because I took a break. The second item Council deferred to the Commission is a review of the Hermosa Beach Little League's proposal for Clark Field improvements. And the Little League would raise funds for this project. We are scheduling this for the Commission's review at its August meeting. So we'll invite Little League to give a full presentation on the project, and then we'll actually have a staff report for this item so we can have some action on this project. Lastly, I did want to note that City Council at that same meeting also requested a future agenda item asking for a complete review of the Lawn Bowling Club, really their maintenance and operation procedures. There's more information to come on this, as I'm just clarifying the review process for this item, ensuring that we would bring it to the Parks Commission before it went to City Council because the direction was a little unclear. So I will definitely be in touch with an update on that. Next slide. All right, so our next update is exciting. Today marks the official start of National Parks and Recreation Month. This year's theme is Build Together, Play Together, and it celebrates 40 years of Parks and Recreation Month. This time is really a time to celebrate the power of Parks and Recreation and how it builds strong, vibrant, and resilient communities. Each year, we plan and highlight different activities to really celebrate this month. And really this year, just naturally, our efforts align with the theme of Parks and Recreation that month, Parks and Recreation Month this year, and that is building together, as it showcases really, as you can see on the slides before you, partnerships with organizations to provide parks and recreation activities for our community. So really to celebrate the month, first we've done something we've never done before, and that is really form a flyer to highlight the partnership that we have with JVA, BVCA, AAU, and AVP. It's really showcasing the fact that these 3 national youth volleyball tournaments happen in the month of July here in our city. And it's a theme of where legends begin, because that's exactly what's happening here every single year in July. And I have to credit Commissioner Maroney for this wonderful idea to really showcase these 3 tournaments and coin that term, where legends begin. And we'll continue it annually because we're excited for this amazing partnership and the fact that it so happens in July, which is Parks and Recreation Month. The second is the Shakespeare by the Sea. A couple years ago, we decided to really have this be a continuing highlight that we have in Parks and Recreation Month. The city really supports this event with staff, and we actually give the organization a donation so that they're able to hold this event each year. Without that donation, it might not be possible for them to continue to be here in the city of Hermosa Beach annually. So we really love working with this organization and being able to highlight this event as an activity to celebrate Parks and Recreation Month. And new this summer, and something that we're really excited about because of a partnership that we've really developed over the years with LA Galaxy, is we will be hosting a summer community movie matinee event at the community center on July 13th. We will be showing the film Kicking and Screaming, which features Will Ferrell, and we will have soccer activities and LA Galaxy activations all on the east lawn of the community center. We will have banners on the east of the community center that showcase that LA Galaxy supports the city of Hermosa Beach. And it's just a really wonderful partnership event that's free to the community. And while we don't require it, we do ask that people pre-register really, just so we can get a head count on who's coming, but you don't have to. You can still show up if you didn't pre-register. But if you do want to pre-register, it's at hermosabeach.gov/recreation where you can do so. Next slide. Okay, so we do have an update on the Clark Building. Construction completion is set to be completed any day now. Therefore, we did open up the rental application today. It is available on the website. It is an online form that you may fill out. And we did email our interest list, which is about 120 individuals/organizations. We've already received 8 responses asking for dates, and we already have, I think it is 4 that had already reached out prior to the application that had selected dates in mind. So we already have a lot of interest day one of the application being open. And that concludes the Community Resources Director's report.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Lisa?
Yeah, I do love the theme. I didn't come up with the theme. I just suggested we come up with one, so.
You got us there.
Yeah, all right. The next step for me in my mind is, and I can do this, but we should reach out to the chamber and tell them we have this theme, and maybe if you guys run with it and make the groups feel like we know you're here, maybe that'll generate some additional business above what they already get. But otherwise, great.
Great idea.
Got any questions? Tracy?
No, that's very good news about the Clark Building. I'll
Yeah.
look forward to is there going to be a ribbon cutting?
Yeah, so we hope to plan an opening celebration
Yeah.
by really at the end of the month. As long as everything stays on track, we can set a
exciting.
date. So we'll definitely reach out to the commission to make sure it's a date that works for the commission to be able to attend.
Congratulations.
Okay. I have my questions.
Okay.
So, first of all, regarding the movie, have we reached out to AYSO?
Yes, we will be reaching out to AYSO Super Soccer Stars, which is one of our contract classes, and any really soccer organization. The schools, we'll be reaching out to the schools as well to let them know about the event. That is actually all happening this week.
Okay. Regarding the Clark Building, open for reservations. You said we already have some bookings, or we have some inquiries?
So we already had 8 responses today asking for what dates may be available, and obviously since it just opened today, we have plenty of available dates. And we already had some inquiries before we had opened today that had kind of expressed interest on certain dates, so we were able to share the application with them today, saying get your application in so we can confirm those dates for you.
Okay. Are we on budget?
We are on budget. We did have to dip into the contingency, but we are still within the budget.
And the budget is?
The budget was $2,500,000 approximately.
Okay. Is there any chance that we were waiting for, I believe, the gas company. We haven't been able, everything is ready to go except for gas. Is that correct?
We've had some delay of materials, lighting materials, but that is expected to be in, I believe it was expected to be in today, actually. I didn't get a formal update if they came in as they were supposed to be delivered today, and we're currently awaiting an electrical building final inspection to close out the project.
And I believe that's been weeks we've been waiting?
We had to wait about a month and a half for
Okay.
this.
So, and then the advertising that we're doing is through different groups that have already used it, and the chamber knows that we have this space available. Are we doing anything else to advertise for this new building?
We would really advertise it through all our communication channels. So that's our social media, our e-newsletter, through announcement at City Council, our commission meetings, Parks Commission, Public Works Commission, certainly sharing it with the chamber, and again, our interest list of 120. On the city website, it will have a friendly URL, hermosabeach.gov/Clark Building, and we can see what else we can do to advertise it too.
Well, I did a walkthrough last Thursday with Cambria, and it's just lovely. And the echo, is it gone completely? No, but it is absolutely beautiful, and I can't wait for the ribbon cutting. The Greenbelt, when are we having that ribbon cutting?
That should be at the end of the month. We are just waiting for the plaque. Everything else is in.
Okay.
And it's expected to be coming in within the week. So then we could go ahead and schedule the dedication ceremony for the official naming of it being the Greenbelt Accessible Trail.
Excellent. And then the summer camp update. How are our summer camps doing?
Summer camps are doing amazing. Valley Park Day Camp in particular, we are sold out every single week, and we have about 40 to 80 on the wait list. So we are really working on, that's one of our projects right now, is determining what we can do next summer to possibly have a South Park Summer Day Camp to help meet that need.
And the ages for our campers right now are from
6 to 13.
6 to 13. So maybe we would move the younger kids down to South Park?
Or even those who may not be interested in going on the excursion. Some participants aren't interested in going on an off-site excursion. Maybe their parents don't want their children to do that. So it would be possibly expanding the age range, maybe cutting it off a little sooner so it doesn't go all the way to 13, and then also serving for those who maybe don't want to go on the excursion and just want to stay at the park throughout the week.
Okay. And do we have an update on the concert series?
Yes, we should be able to announce our talent soon. It's definitely going to take place on the same dates as it did last year, the 2 Sundays following Labor Day weekend, and it will begin at 3 o'clock. So we're really close to being able to announce the talent. We're actually signing final papers.
Excellent. And then how are we doing on the replacement for our
Lead special events
Yes,
and
thank
filming
you.
coordinator? That position is currently open, and we are accepting applications, and that we will be doing so through July 6th.
Okay. And how are we doing with the department on movie and photo shoots? I saw an unusual activity on the Strand last week with El Pollo Loco.
That was actually a promotional activation. So because of our wonderful new special events and filming coordinator, Austin, who's in the audience, and our former lead special events and filming coordinator, we've really been able to have a quicker turnaround to accommodate these activations and new special events. So honestly, within the past 2 weeks, we've accommodated 4 promotional activations, and one of those was El Pollo Loco. One of those was I Know What You Did Last Summer, featuring the remake of the cult classic.
Ooh, scary.
Yeah. Well, they gave out ice cream, so it wasn't that scary,
Okay.
actually. It was very, very nice. And those 4 activations are going to bring in over $40,000 in revenue for the city in a matter of 2 weeks.
Excellent. Okay, and then my last question is, we're going to talk later about subcommittees, we've had a change in commissioners, so we'll do that later in the evening.
Yeah, we do have the consideration of the creation of a youth program subcommittee on the agenda. So we can definitely share the 2 existing subcommittees, what their responsibilities are at that time, and our plans to fill a vacancy on the existing subcommittee. That would be appropriate within that item.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. Next, public comment.
This is the time for members of the public to address the commission on items on and not on the agenda, but within the commission's jurisdiction. Each speaker is limited to 2 minutes and will be taken in person only. A total of 30 minutes will be allocated for this comment period. As a reminder, another public comment period at the end of this meeting is reserved for those whose comments could not be heard during this first public comment opportunity. A reminder that if you address the commission on a discussion item, you will not be able to address the commission on the same item when it is heard at a later part of the meeting. I didn't receive any public speaker cards, so if anyone from the audience would like to speak, please state your name and city of residence for the record.
Adam.
Adam Malovani, Hermosa Beach. Hello, everybody. Wow, what great work you all are doing, and these events, and the dog park, and the volleyball. It's just really inspiring and important. One thing I will say about the dog park that they didn't mention, I mean, not only is there obviously a need for it, and the most well-organized group I have ever seen give a presentation in Hermosa, but I think it's really important that it says something about who we want to be as a community, you know, and the dogs are just pure love, and that, you know, everybody's welcome in Hermosa, including dogs, and there is an economic positive impact to it too, I'm sure, especially with people that have the capability to help support the funding of it also. Also, the volleyball, I mean, the economic impact of that is incredible, not to mention, the youth events are my favorite events, that you can just go sit on the side of the court and see some of the best young players in the world. So, and I really encourage, you know, we have so many families here, to find ways to collaborate with other businesses and organizations to even take further advantage of these in ways. So just wanted to say thank you for all you're doing. Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. Do we have any, well, we're not open for anybody else.
Not online,
right.
but if anyone else in the chamber would like to speak, now is the time.
Okay. Do commissioners have any comments? All right, we'll move on. Next, the consent calendar. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve the consent calendar? Since I'm naughty.
I'll move that we approve the consent calendar, the action minutes from our June meeting, and the May 2025 activity report.
I'll second that.
Voting is now open.
Galen?
Commissioner Ellman,
Yes.
all commissioners have voted. Voting is now closed. Motion carries unanimously.
Next, public hearings, matters for commissioners' consideration. Lisa?
Thank you, Commissioner Ehrman. Our first matter for commission consideration is the election of officers. Go ahead and advance the slide. So most recently, former Commissioner Lang served as chair of the commission, and former Commissioner Pizer-Main served as vice chair. Historically, these positions have been filled by order of seat placement. If this practice were to be maintained based on that order and that past practice, of the last commission meeting, Commissioner Ellman would be next in line to serve as chair, and Commissioner Horowitz would be next in line to serve as vice chair. Excuse me, I just lost my place. Next slide. There is no next slide. The commission may nominate whomever they wish to serve as chair and vice chair. However, this is, again, just past practice that I have shared with you. This does conclude my verbal, and I am available for any questions you may have.
So are there any nominations for chair?
I'll nominate chair, interim chair Ellman. Did I?
Is there a
Commissioner
second?
Ellman as chair.
I'll second the nomination. And then I'll nominate Commissioner Horowitz as vice chair.
I'll second that.
Are we doing 2 separate votes for each one, or how would we like to?
I believe we can have them as one vote.
Okay. Let me see. Can you remind me what the first and second were again? Sorry.
Do you need who made the motion and who seconded?
I think I got it. I'll fix it going back, but voting is now open. Commissioner Elman,
Yes.
voting is now closed. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, next we have approval of the 2025 Impact Level 2 returning special event. I believe Austin. Welcome, Austin. Your tie looks fabulous.
Good evening, Chair Elman and Commissioners. Austin Dewey, Special Events and Filming Coordinator on behalf of staff, recommends the Parks, Recreation, and Community Resources Advisory Commission approve the inclusion of Impact Level 2 returning special event, the Frosty Olympics, on the 2025 special event calendar. Next slide. Team Frosty requests approval to hold the Frosty Olympics on the south of the pier on Saturday, October 4th, 2025. The event would include a cornhole tournament fundraiser to support South Bay resident Mike Frosty Foster, who is battling ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, and to raise awareness and funding for ALS research. The event producer anticipates up to 100 in attendance, and the event would take place from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Additional event details are included in the Frosty Olympics event overview, attachment 3. Next slide. On the slide before you and within the event overview sheet attached to your staff report is the site map for the Frosty Olympics. The event producer would be required to ensure no lifeguard emergency access lanes are blocked. There would also be no fenced-in areas. Next slide. This concludes my staff report. We have requested the event producer to be in attendance should the commission have any questions, and staff is available to assist with questions as well. If the commission recommends approval for the event would be added to the 2025 special events calendar.
If anybody has any questions.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the event?
Oh, okay, sure. Well, first, good evening. I think I recognize everybody's face except Commissioner Warner, I believe is new, so pleasure to meet you. Frosty Olympics is our main beach get-together, fundraising, community building event of the year. The Frosty Olympics is for Team Frosty. You heard my good friend Mike Foster got diagnosed with ALS more than 5 years ago. So we're living on borrowed time. The prognosis for most ALS victims is 3 to 5 years from date of diagnosis. They're not with us anymore. So we're already ahead. It's a big deal for us to have this near one of the accessible walkways out into the sand, because sadly this year, I'm hoping he can make it without a wheelchair this year, but we're getting to that point. So it's just a fundraising. It's a 3-generation event. We might get a 4th. We've got a grandbaby on the way. I don't know when the due date is. But we're pretty family friendly. We're all mostly locals from Redondo, Hermosa, Manhattan Beach. He's from Michigan originally, but he stuck here as soon as he found this is where he wanted to lay his roots. And I've been hanging out in Hermosa Beach since I was old enough to catch a bus from Harbor City. So, our two big events are the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I think we had 85 people in it this year. We keep threatening to take it over. And our beach event here in Hermosa. And there's an online auction that goes along with that, where we have a lot of great items donated by people part of the group. So it's a great day, and we like to have it here. We've partnered with Waterman's, Vista. I forget the third name of the place, but usually we pretty much fill up one of the local taverns / restaurants after the event to pour some money into Hermosa.
Any questions?
Just confirm the date. It's October 4th, right? Is the date, or is it the 11th?
We were hoping for the 11th, but I guess there was some conflict, so we're doing the 4th and hoping we don't get too much competition from the hometown fair.
Okay. Yeah, I went by the event last year and was sad to have missed it. So I'm looking forward to hopefully participating this year. I did take home a few items in the online auction though after the fact. So
Yeah. Well, I raid my wine cellar, and we get some people with Chargers and Rams tickets, and we usually have a pretty good smattering of stuff.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Remind us how someone would access the online auction.
If you go to our website, it's teamfrosty07.org. There will be a link there.
I found out about it also through Facebook posting that there's a Team Frosty Facebook group.
I'm not very good at social media. Yeah. We have other members of the group that are good at that. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and wherever else you'd be found in social media. I don't know that world very well personally.
Great. If we have any questions, we'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
So, do we want to open this up to public comment?
Is there anyone in the chambers wishing to speak on this item? If not, we will move to Zoom, and it looks like we have a virtual hand raised by Anthony Higgins. Mr. Higgins, your 3 minutes will begin when you begin speaking.
Yeah, hello, good evening. My question pertains to level 2 special events in September of this year. I'm not sure if I got this right, but if I do, we're over the limit on level 2 event days by 15 days. If I got that wrong, I'd appreciate knowing about that. If I got that right, it seems like there might be a bit of event overreach, and maybe somebody can address what is being done to correct that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm not seeing any additional hands raised at this time.
Okay. Seeing no one's hands raised, I will bring this back. Does anyone have any comments they want to make?
I got a quick question. Lisa can clarify. We're not over in September that much anymore because the Kings aren't coming, correct?
Right, the Kings withdrew their event request. We're only over by 2 days, and it's worth noting that about 5 of those days are just noted as event days because the concert series infrastructure is on the south of the pier. No event activity is happening, but we still note that as event days because it's an impact to the beach because there's event infrastructure on the beach.
Anyone else?
You're talking about September? Yes. Okay,
Correct.
but the event we're talking about is in
October.
Okay, just clarifying.
Good catch. Okay.
And make a motion?
Absolutely.
All right. Motion to approve the inclusion of the Impact Level 2 returning special event, the Frosty Olympics, on Saturday, October 4th, 2025, south of the pier, to the 2025 special event calendar.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Voting is now open.
Yes. It worked.
Voting is now closed. Motion carries unanimously.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thanks to Lisa and Austin.
We'll see you down on the beach. Okay, next, we're at consideration of approval of the commencement of long-term agreement negotiations for AAU Hermosa Beach Championship, AVP Junior National Championships, and JVA BVCA National Championships. Lisa?
Thank you, Chair Ellman. Before I begin the verbal presentation, I wanted to provide a little bit of background regarding AVP, just to avoid any confusion as we get into this item. In the past, AVP has hosted the Hermosa Beach Open, which is a professional adult volleyball tournament, and they also did host this adult tournament alongside their junior tournament. Due to not being granted AVP's requested dates in 2024 and 2025, AVP did not hold the professional adult volleyball tournament in 2024. Their requested dates were in this early to mid-July timeframe that is highly sought after by all three of our July volleyball organizations. AVP did, however, hold their junior tournament in 2024 and will in 2025. At this time, there are no plans for AVP to host the Hermosa Beach Open, which is the adult professional tournament. Day at the Beach Events hosted the Hermosa Beach Open in 2024, and it will in 2025, and has been approved to hold it in the upcoming years through a long-term agreement as well. The long-term agreement application from AVP tonight is only in regards to their junior event. Next slide. So for the past several years, staff has received conflicting event date requests from AAU, AVP, and JVA BVCA, as again, that early to mid-July timeframe is highly sought after. Staff has received LTA applications, LTA is long-term agreement, so just clarifying that, from each organization for its events from 2026 through 2028. And while the requested dates from AAU and JVA BVCA do not conflict with one another, AVP's requested dates overlap with those requested by both of those organizations. Additionally, AVP is requesting an expanded time frame throughout the next 3 years. They're asking for 16 event days versus the 10 days that they were approved for in 2024 and the 7 in 2025. Next slide. So really here, this calendar, the boxes noted in red show all the conflicts that would be present on those specific days due to AVP's requested time frame. Next slide. While it's not usual at this time for staff to get into a conversation about dates at this point, where we're merely asking for a recommendation to enter into negotiations for a long-term agreement, because of the history and the conflicting date request, staff is recommending that if the commission recommends City Council approve the commencement of negotiations, that we include a recommendation on the dates to offer these three organizations. Staff would recommend the established sequence consistent with what was approved by City Council for 2024 and 2025, allowing JVA BVCA to take place in early July, followed by AAU in mid-July and AVP in late July. Staff would also recommend maintaining the same event dates annually for consistency for these organizations and its program participants. And you can see on the slide before you the dates that we are recommending to carry out throughout the next 3 years. Next slide. This next slide before you actually shows staff's proposed dates, an example of 2026, how there would be no conflicting date requests throughout the three organizations if we followed staff's recommendation on dates. Next slide. If the commission does not favor that recommendation, they can consider dates that allow each organization to host its events during the desired early to mid-July timeframe in 2 of the 3 next calendar years. The organization that is not within the early to mid-July timeframe each year would be asked to move outside of that timeframe and propose alternate dates. Next slide. So I'm sorry, going back to my the previous alternate recommendation that I proposed. Staff really would not recommend that because it doesn't provide consistency for these 3 organizations or for the city throughout the next 3 years or the park program participants. Now we can go to the next slide. And that concludes my verbal, and I'm available for any questions you may have. And we also, again, have our event representatives for JVA, BVCA, and AAU here. I do not believe that we have event representatives on the line for AVP.
We do not.
I have a quick question. Why are all the events typically July? Do they not look at August at all? And what is the reason for that?
We've been dealing with this for so many years that I can say that it's because of numerous reasons. School schedules and the indoor youth volleyball games are conflicting with the later July timeframe. So when you get into August, that's more school schedules. But I'm sure Denny or Jeff could even summarize it even better to you, for you, because they've really been the ones to teach me why it's so important over the years.
So I'm going to ask Tom first, because Tom, we kind of thought we were on the go with how this, so do you have some questions?
I do have some questions. And I don't want to make this tedious, but I really think it's important that we show our work and our thinking here, because council may be watching this meeting, some of council, there are people in the community. So I want to go through a series of questions so we can make this as plain as I can. And then I'll have related questions for the promoters. All right, Lisa, no one is asking for a date to play before July 6th.
Correct.
Okay. So no one is interested in staging a junior tournament that would play on the 4th or start to play and then take off the 4th?
No, no request for earlier than July 6th.
All right, what is city policy, either formal city policy or preference with respect to what we do on the 4th?
Past preference have been that we try to not schedule any events on July 4th itself and that weekend that may fall closest to July 4th. That's merely past practice. It's not a policy.
Okay. So the schedule we're being asked to set runs from July 6th to July 27th.
Correct.
Okay, those are the dates that all combined are asking for. That's 22 days. All right, you don't have to confirm that. I did count. City staff's preferred solution actually requires 24 days, but that's because 2 of the days are counted twice. There's a takedown and a setup.
Correct. We do count the setup and teardown as event days.
All right. So we have 24 days if we count this overlapping takedown and setup. That's all that's available from the 6th to the 27th. The event organizers are asking for this. JVA, BVCA are asking for 7 days. AAU is asking for 8 or 9 days. AVP is asking for 16 to 17 days. At the total request that's 31 or 33 days. Those days don't exist on the calendar.
Not possible.
Staff is suggesting JVA, BVCA for 7 days, AAU for 8 days, AVP for 9 days. That's 24 days, and that gives us the overlapping dates. So those 24 days are available. AVP is not offering a pro-grand style tournament to Hermosa this year, or at any time in the next 3 years as far as we know, correct?
Correct.
All right. The last time AVP did a pro-grand style tournament, the big bleachers, they started set up in late June. They set up over the 4th weekend, and in 2022 they had 15 days, and when their last long-term agreement proposal for 3 years, they wanted 13 days each. So now they're asking for 16 days, correct?
Correct.
All right. Can we give anybody a couple more days after the 27th? The 28th, the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. Now, what happens is we have on our calendar a couple of those days set up for the International Surf Festival. But there isn't a lot going on in Hermosa until that Friday. And even then, it's not a big footprint. It's, they grade it a little bit, put a hill in, and maybe some bleachers. Are we able to offer AVP 1 or 2 of those days?
I would advise against it because we do have LA County Beaches and Harbor prepping the area, and it may differ annually on how much prep is needed, just based on the condition of the beach. Right. So to give those dates to AVP could be problematic if there's more work that needs to be done to prep the site for the International Surf Festival by LA County Beaches and Harbors.
All right. And when we talk about a rotation, to me, and let me go through a scenario, and you can say if this is what you're thinking. If we were to do a rotation, so slot 1 would be the early July date, slot 2 would be the middle July date, slot 3 would be the end of July. So if we put their names in a hat, and BVCA was picked number 1, they would get their early date in July. And then whoever was number 2 would get the middle date, whoever number 3 would get the end date. And then the next year, the person who had the middle date would be first, and the person who was at the bottom would be second, and the person who was first would be last. That's sort of what a rotation would look like?
Exactly, except I wouldn't choose at random. I did some work to look at what's happened since 2024 and forecasted what would be able to happen through 2029 to where I can kind of give each organization that early to mid-July timeframe a fair amount of times. That's how I would look at it if we went that route. I would make sure that I would be forecasting to the next few years, making sure it was fair across the board who was ending up in that early to mid-July timeframe from 2024 to 2029. That would be the way that I can make it fair. The time frame I would need to make it fair.
All right. So that's the only questions I have for Lisa. Look, we don't have the days in the calendar to meet these 3 requests.
We do not.
All right.
Todd?
Yeah, so I actually did maybe a similar analysis to you, Commissioner Maroney. However, my focus is really on the days of competition only between them. And what I found out of that, looking back the last 3 years and looking forward to the requests, was that the BVCA generally has had 5 days of competition. AAU seems to be, at least from what I could tell, a little between 6 to 8 days of competition. And AVP in the past has dealt with 7 or 6 days of competition, yet they're requesting 13. Part of my questioning earlier was starting to try to understand what is the difference between these organizations, because I am generally supportive of youth sports, volleyball, competition, and all that, but I'm also concerned about tying up every volleyball court and most of the beach tennis courts for an entire month when there's a lot of demand on those resources in our city too. So I've been trying to kind of dig into it a little bit. I wish the AVP folks were here. I'd like to understand a little bit more, unless you know, Lisa, I assume they've requested, like you said, they've requested 16 days in the past, yet their competition they've run their competition successfully with 7 days.
Correct. In the past, it's really ranged, honestly, from year to year, as kind of Commissioner Maroney shared. The 13 to 16 days that they had received in the past were to accommodate a professional adult tournament. Never have they received that many days for just a junior tournament.
Okay.
None of these organizations have received that many days to accommodate just their junior tournament.
Yeah, I'm also, my earlier questioning was, I'm interested in understanding more about the logistical handoffs to minimize maybe some of the setup and tear down impact between the days, so maybe we can keep that schedule as tight as possible. I would also be interested in trying to figure out, because I don't believe we have access to, say, registration information, such as exactly how many athletes came from outside LA and Orange counties in each of these tournaments, right? And exactly how many are duplicate that actually do stay. And I know we've talked about different ways to maybe get at some of that information. That's another piece of information that would be useful and interesting to have, I think, to guide this decision.
Anything else?
I think that's all I can remember right now.
We'll come back to
All right.
Tracy.
One of the things that I thought was impactful when the event producers were up here earlier, and they were talking about the consistency for the participants. And I think that can't be lost on us in terms of scheduling it out and them knowing year to year And I guess we could do that either way. We could do that whether they go in the same order every year, or if they do that rotating, they would still know their dates, right?
Okay.
I remembered something else I wanted to say about that. Like, I would love to have a pro AVP event back in Hermosa. I would love to have a pro AVP event. I know we have the Hermosa Open. That's a special thing. It's kind of our thing. But a pro AVP event does carry some cachet, in the volleyball world. But what I've observed about AVP this year, and probably in prior years, is it's kind of a wild card because their business model changes quite a bit. Even I went to Huntington, their Heritage Series, which is what the Hermosa Open is part of. They're only doing, I think, 2 events on the AVP schedule this year. They've changed this league format. It's in indoor arenas, different things like that. And even at Huntington, there was no giant grandstand. It was one level of bleachers, and it was a much more smaller footprint event. But because we have no idea, I don't think we can predict it. I don't think that should really weigh into much of our decision making here, because we're talking really about the junior events and the focus on that.
So let's just talk about the elephant in the room. We don't know where AVP is. AVP has not returned any of your phone calls or your emails.
Not particularly to tonight's meeting. They were
Right.
notified again in the same way. We are working with them to plan their event in July. They have been responsive to all event planning efforts.
I'm sorry, they have or have not?
Have.
Okay.
We've notified 3 members of their organization about the pre-event presentation this evening and this item on the agenda, and what our recommendation was going to be, and that was to maintain the 2024 and 2025 order of events, because since AVP's returned in 2017, this has really been the only consistency year to year that we've had, really, with just these three junior tournaments. And again, it's different because we don't have the professional tournament in the mix anymore. But I know for those who have been on the commission, this has been a long-standing issue for us. And since, again, 2024, we have found the solution at least to accommodate the juniors and this idea that July is for juniors.
Okay. Tom, everyone had great questions, and you've had all the answers. At this point, we do have 2 of the 3. We will ask them to come up. But at this point, without having AVP here, does it make that LTA moot?
No, not necessarily. They have a current LTA for 2025. It doesn't automatically void the LTA if they don't have a pre-event presentation. It's something that can be considered in negotiations, the fact that, they didn't meet this long-term agreement requirement, essentially, but there's no language that says if you don't make the pre-event presentation, we void. There's just language that says that we have the option to, no matter what the reason, within a certain amount of time.
Okay.
May I ask?
Yes.
Also, Lisa, do you know what the staff recommendation around the AVP dates of being 8 days of competition, something it's 8 days of competition, do you know why 8 days when the other organizations get fewer?
The reason is the other organizations are only asking for that amount of dates. So if they were asking for more, we would consider that, but this is consistent to what they've always asked for. The reason that we did that amount of days for AVP, is because in line with our recommendation to build this consistent calendar for the next 3 years, we're recommending that AVP have July 19th through July 27th. And when you look through our next 3 years in 2028, that would put them.
Wednesday.
Well, actually, we could
Wednesday.
give AVP some more time.
Oh,
But we
I was
would-
thinking the other way.
Oh, yeah. So basically, we were considering the International Surf Festival and kind of
Yeah.
having a break in between that and not going into their setup days. And so we thought the other 2 organizations, the max amount of event days that they get is 8. Let's give AVP 8, and then it's a little bit more fair.
Okay. I did think of another item
Excellent.
for, so 2028 Olympics, July 14th to July 30th. Is there anything on the calendar or Hermosa otherwise committed either prior to that or during that might impact
Fortunately, not yet, but we've put our interest in to serve as a training location. It's my understanding that we wouldn't even know until next year any response to that interest that we put out there. When I asked for an update and kind of a time frame, that's what they told me, that they don't foresee knowing until maybe even having those conversations till the beginning of next year. If it becomes to be a reality that we would certainly work with these organizations to see what we can do to still make their events happen and still accommodate that. And I have no doubt that they would be in support of that and excited about the opportunity that we received in 2028 if we receive it.
Okay. And the only other one that I thought of that's in that same vein is World Cup 2026, which
Yes.
maybe we want to do some kind of there's a watch party for the USA team on some date that they're playing. I don't know if having all these events and committing, obviously a large number of special event days it does reduce the chances, I think, of doing more events like that, but I don't know how much it really.
I think we'll be okay. So we're in preliminary, staff's doing some planning and working with some of our partner organizations that we've worked with in the past, and ideas of clinics, viewing parties, beautification days. We did go to a very informational session on how to really get involved with the World Cup at the Grammy Museum from LA 88. So since it's in June, yes, it will impact our calendar a little bit more, but it would be more of a city-hosted partner event that I think, I'm not worried about our bandwidth to make it all happen.
Great. So, Denny, would you like to come up? Do you have anything to say, share, educate?
First, I'd like to mention for the record, my dogs, Dodger and Mookie, would enjoy a dog park down here. Especially Mookie, he needs to get out. Okay, I think I wanted to reiterate the foundation that I think Hermosa Beach has laid here, and encourage you to continue down that path. And that is, there's two stable players, stable organizations. That's the BVCA and the AAU that have, at the direction of council and commission, have worked together seamlessly. And I think have earned the opportunity to be in the front slots, the front two slots, which are the most coveted. Also, I want to make point that both the BVCA and the AAU are youth organizations. They're run by governing bodies, and it's very transparent as to who's in charge of the beach programs, and that there's an upline that also is in the world of volleyball and at the junior level. That isn't the same for the third party. In fact, they're owned by a hedge fund, and their efforts in this space can be really confusing and not stable, and it's upended both of our organizations when they were inserted into the middle. So that's one thing I think the city deserves is consistent programming. I also think we've earned that to be able to go to our constituents and they know we're in that second week after 4th of July, they're in that first week after 4th of July. We, in fact, we're not going anywhere. I would bet Jeff would love to do a 5-year agreement. We'd like to do a 10-year agreement. This is the place, and this is a place we want to build. This is perfectly suited for the junior championships. It really is. I love that one slide that showed where the legends begin. It is. It literally is. We can name a number of Olympians that have come directly off these sands. And also, I want to make note that it's not just the kids that achieve high level that benefit from your city. It's all kinds that are learning discipline and that are being able to resolve their own conflicts on the court. And they're doing a lot of things. And that comes from organizations that are focused on youth. So the Association of Volleyball Professionals, one area that they make some money is the juniors. And so they'll continue that and they'll want to get in on that game here. But that's not their focus. Our focus is on the juniors. Finally, I wanted to mention something about the Hermosa Open. I actually would put that, really, if you ask those of us that are constantly in this game, the Hermosa Open stands taller than any of the heritage events in terms of well-run and the level of talent. The AVP has decided to move to a league model, which really indicates that eventually what they want to do is sell franchises, not unlike professional bull riding, or there's several sports that are following this model now, and that's where Alden Capital, who is their upline, that's where they're moving them towards, right? The Hermosa Open, that has serious potential. Like, that is exactly how this sport evolved and where this sport really gained all of its credibility, is in events like that, right? And Hermosa has that kind of brand recognition now, and it's set in a perfect time in September. So those are the immediate points I wanted to make, and then of course, be happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Denny?
I do. Do you have questions? No. And quick, easy one. You don't want to play over the 4th?
No.
Why not?
2 reasons. One, the major reason is the AAU Indoor National Championships. The boys' competition is going as we speak right now in Orlando. And in beach volleyball, there are some girl players that just play beach because there's that component of the NCAA scholarships, right? But that's not the same in boys. All the boys that play beach volleyball play indoor. And so they're all in Orlando right now for the AAU National Championships. And so that affects our event the most.
You did say how important stability was to you. So I take it you don't want to do the rotation?
No.
No. You guys have all had years where you were the last slot in July.
Correct.
You've all said you don't want to be the last slot in July.
I know we don't, yeah. Nor I believe that to be true.
What's the problem from your scheduling?
From the schedule, you can't get as much of the different districts or states or regions to participate in that 3rd week. If you were to do the data as you suggested, you would see that the AVP in that 3rd week, they generally are drawing from Southern California for those numbers. But you'll notice that we're drawing from multiple states. And so that's the difference. In that 3rd week, you can really only draw from Southern California, which is fine, but I don't think that's an upside for your city in terms of who's staying in the hotels and going to the restaurants. And also, we want a true national championship that allows everybody an opportunity to come. And those can really only happen between the 5th and the 19th, about as we've identified.
I don't have any other questions.
Todd? Tracy?
No, you answered my question about the stability, because the predictability about when it is versus knowing if it's the last week of July versus the 1st versus the 2nd. Is there a specific reason why it works well for JVA to go first and then AAU to go second?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that JVA's or BVCA, that's Beach Volleyball Clubs of America, so they're very much focused on the clubs, and those clubs tend to be girls' clubs, and most of their programming is done indoor, and that's where they're driving from, whereas we are primarily based on what's called the pairs competition. So that's kind of like it's not 3 versus 3 or 5 versus 5 teams, it's individual pairs, teams that are working through and those include boys. And that's one of our major initiatives. AAU Indoor National Championships, that's where all of the boys are playing. right? And we also have made a push to have more boys playing on beach volleyball. We always have, always try to do our best, and so that's why we fit better in that second slot. So that allows the boys' competition to take place. The two boys that I showed you that got the bronze medal at the Gymnasiad in Serbia, they're South Bay boys that won our 14s national championships last year. They wouldn't have been able to do that had we been earlier. So that's why we work better in that second slot.
Thank you.
Sure.
I don't have any questions. You've already made it very clear. Thank you, Denny.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Yeah, this is, so back in 2016, Town Council actually, AAU and BVCA, JVA used to battle for one weekend, and the weekend was the one right after the 4th. And it was pretty obvious that we both wanted those dates, and then it was a time where the numbers weren't as big as they are now. You know, we had 200 to 300 teams per event, and Town Council asked us to work together. And so in 2016, we actually worked together. And what we learned is sharing information, collaborating, works a lot better. It increased everybody's numbers. And what we learned is the process that you could have a tournament on a Monday, not just a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so what happened is all of our numbers went up, more families came, everybody benefited. And in 2017, the AVP came. And the history is in 2017, they saw what we did, they kept us in the same place. It was a really tough battle, I'm not gonna lie, it was very stressful. 2018, same thing, they came right back at us, trying to take our market share. And it wasn't about the pro event. They could run a pro event May, June, September, other months. But they're driving their junior event when they're running it together to take our market share for the junior events, because it does help pay for their build out, their massive build out. And it was pretty obvious. 2019, same thing. Came at us hard for those dates, the first 2 weeks. Town Council voted the same. Keep us in the first 2 weeks, AVP at the end. Also in 2017, we used to have USA Volleyball here at the end. AVP removed them. And so I'm giving you some history of context. 2020, they were offered an LTA, but we had COVID in 2020, 2021. They did the 2022 1st of July. Obviously it didn't work because of the impact of how many days they need to set up, take over 5 days, 6 days to set up, 3 or 4 days to set up. It wasn't good for business. We learned that. We went to this LTA as Lisa described, and it worked really well with, again, going back to 2017, 2018, 2019 with BVCA, JVA, AAU, and then AVP at the end. I don't think it's fair for an organization trying to take market share, and they know what they're doing, and they know those 2 weeks that we've had previously before them, that they're not operating in good faith in my eyes. And I'm just going to stand strong on that. So thank you.
Thank you. Todd?
Yeah, just want to double check with the 6th through the 12th dates that are proposed for you. I think 26, 27, the 6th is pretty quick after the 4th falling on a weekend. Any concern with that?
Yeah, well, we do. That's one great thing about Mark Paolui. He is a community leader. He understands the community, understands the lifeguards. He knows everybody. So our plan for the 6th this year, so you know, is we're going to start on the north side, leave the courts open on the south side. Till about 1 o'clock, we'll flip-flop. Our courts will be open to the public after we build the north side out, and then the south side we'll work on. And so we're kind of organizing it that way.
Okay.
Yeah. And then just so you know, anybody can play on our courts after we're done with the tournament. And we finish up about 5. And every year, every court is taken up, all 58 of them. There's somebody playing on those courts from 5 to 8 o'clock at night, and we're perfectly fine with it.
Tracy? Elka?
I'm trying to understand, the AVP has 16 to 17 days, and they're not here. Why do they have so many more days than the other two organizations?
They're requesting it. They haven't had that amount of days in the past for their junior tournament. I can't speak to why they're requesting that many days. I believe they're just trying to expand the amount of participants they can accommodate of juniors, expand the time frame, increase their event participation, event revenue. But our recommendation is to give them only 8 days, more in line with what the two other organizations receive.
Okay, so they didn't give like any specific
They
reason?
didn't.
Okay, thank you.
Elka, just when I did some of my research on these too, the AVP divisions of play are very similar to AAU. It's boys and girls every 2 years up from 12U to 18U. I think there's a 10U too for AAU, but that not in AVP at least now. So I too don't really see a rationale that they need that many to run a tournament for those age group divisions.
Can I say one more thing? You guys wanted to give a little more information. There is a 20-day window. Well, actually, it's like July 6th to about July 20th, 21st, where it's the optimal time for parents to travel. Like Danny was stating, there are other states, like their indoor schedule for high school is moved up to like the third week of July, fourth week of July. Also, USA Volleyball has an indoor tournament also that runs close to those July 4th dates, where a lot of our members are also playing indoor and beach. And so there's just it's the perfect storm. That's all I can tell you. And it doesn't make sense unless you're in it. Unless you live this life, understand the parents, understand all the different programmings from indoor volleyball to beach volleyball. And it's really hard to understand. And I appreciate you guys taking the time to really fully understand it. It means a lot that you guys care about it, so thank you.
No problem. Yep. Okay. I'm going to open this up to public comment.
This is the time for members of the public to address the commission on this item only. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone in the chamber wishing to give public comment at this time? Seeing no one, I'll move to Zoom. And I'm not seeing any virtual hands raised at this time.
Okay, so I'll take this back. I just really have to say that, again, this is the third time that AVP has let us down. And I am questioning whether or not this application should even be accepted, that you should even be considering it. A lot of time and effort goes into this, and I just don't think it's acceptable to not be here. I don't have a problem with them requesting different dates. I get that, but if they're not here to defend the need, then I don't think that we have the time to figure it out. So that I just really wanted to say that. If someone has some other thoughts, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, let me share some thoughts. First, Todd. I think Todd's point is excellent about the Olympics. So I think we should be considering a 2-year LTA just because we don't know what's going to happen in the summer of 2028. I think AVP, we want you. I mean, we've got this whole new theme, you know. We got 3 volleyball tournaments. AVP, we would love to have you. We love your junior tournament. We want you to be part of our July event schedule. I would like the city to consider giving AVP a day or two at the end where, maybe there's a little wiggle room right before we have to do the setup before the International Surf Festival. But overall, I think staff is right. These are the dates that we should commit to. AVP isn't here to justify the additional days, and we've been through this. The dates aren't available to give unless we're kicking somebody else out, and there's just no reason to do that. We have 2 unbelievably good partners here. We're not kicking them out. I mean, that's just craziness. So yeah, that would be my thought. I would like to do this for 2 years. I would like to consider giving AVP a day or two an additional And I would just say to AVP, you know, you're welcome, and you're welcome. We want you here, but, you know, we can't do what you're asking.
Anybody else?
I agree. I'm sorry, I'm chewing on my cough drop. I think the idea of doing a 2-year LTA is really interesting. And I don't think it would preclude coming back in 2028 to do another 3-year if the Olympics don't pan out to be a successful experience for Hermosa to have an event or training here. I think staff has worked incredibly hard over the last however many years to try to organize all of the junior tournaments in a really fair and equitable way. And my feeling is I want to trust staff to know that these are the right dates to give. We've heard from the event producers who are here that it's important to them, and unfortunately AVP just doesn't show up. And that's my
Todd?
2 cents.
Yeah, I am inclined to go with staff recommendation. My only change would probably be the opposite of Tom. I would suggest to staff we reduce the AVP's window and suggested dates to match 7 days what the AAU is getting out of this. You know, until further notice. I think the 2-year thing with the intent that we want these to continue in 28, we just don't know. Hopefully that's an understandable aspect and can be revisited within a year potentially if more clarity is known around the Olympic items.
I have a thought for the commission to consider. An option is a 2-year term with an additional 1-year term available on it for renewal. So that way, at the end of the 2 years, we have a better idea of what's happening with the Olympics. And instead of these 2 organizations, or 3 if you recommend commencing negotiations with AVP, do not have to come back through the whole entire application process. There's an extra year for 2008 available in their agreement to renew.
Is 3-year the standard? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that's usually the practice for these.
Okay.
Okay, does someone want to make a motion? I'm just really stuck with this. So we're going to give, it seems that this commission is comfortable giving AVP the ability for us to work with them on a future LTA tonight.
To negotiate, right? To begin negotiations.
I am. I don't want to be negative toward AVP. They're a difficult partner at times, but you know they bring value to the city.
Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion?
Well, let me inquire among my commissioners. What's the sense about directing staff to be open to providing AVP with an additional day or 2 in between the 27th and the beginning of the International Surf Festival setup? What's everybody's sense? Because otherwise, I think I have a motion.
So how many days are you talking about that we would give them?
I would leave it to staff. If we can give them another day or 2 and they want it, and it doesn't interfere with the International Surf Festival, I mean, that's what I would do, just to express, you know, you're welcome here, you're welcome here. We want you.
I'd be agreeable to that at staff's discretion.
Pardon me?
I would be agreeable to that at staff's discretion.
Yeah, I'm fine with that as well.
All right, so then I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I would move that we recommend that the city commence long-term agreement negotiations for the AAU Hermosa Beach Championships, the ABP Junior National Championships, and the JVA BVCA National Championships, with the following dates being given to them. JVA BVCA will be given July 6th to July 12th. AAU Hermosa Beach Championships will be given July 12th to July 19th. And AVP Junior National Championships will be given July 19th to July 27th, with staff being open to considering whether the 28th and or 29th might be added on to that. The motion is that the negotiations would be for a 2-year long-term agreement with a 1-year additional option that the city can renew at the city's option. I think that covers it.
Do I have a second? I'll second.
Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. Motion carries unanimously.
Oops. Okay, so next we have the creation of a youth program subcommittee. 11D, Lisa?
Thank you, Chair Ellman. Next slide. At its June 3rd meeting, the commission requested staff return with an item to consider the creation of a youth program subcommittee. On the slide before you are the current subcommittees. I wanted to make note that in August, we will bring in an item to the commission to replace former Commissioner Pizer-Maines on the municipal police policy. I wanted to give our new commissioner some background on the task of these two existing subcommittees. These subcommittees have been in existence for several years. They are tasked with some very complicated tasks, and the first is our municipal police policy. Really, the scope of work for this subcommittee was to complete best practice research on how surrounding cities consider, process, and oversee long-term leases of indoor city facilities. They were tasked with reviewing our current leases, which include the Kiwanis Club, the Rotary Club, the Hermosa Arts Foundation, the ARC that's in our south wing of the community center, the relationship that we have with the Lawn Bowling Club, all of those facilities, and I'm sure I'm even forgetting a couple. And to really, from all that research, create a municipal police policy outlining terms as who would be eligible to apply for a lease, what would the review and approval process be for someone who does apply for an indoor facility, a city-owned indoor facility to have a long-term lease, what would the lease rates be, what would the general terms in a lease agreement need to be, and how would we consider special provisions in an agreement for certain facilities, like one I forgot to include in my list, like the Hermosa Beach Museum, the community benefit that they bring. They wouldn't be subject, obviously, to the lease rates, maybe, things like that, really to just dive into that work, because there's no overarching policy. Each lease agreement that we have is different for different terms, different lengths, term lengths. So it was really just to have consistency throughout all our indoor facility leases. We've done a lot of work. We still have quite a bit more work to do. The second is the volleyball court use policy. This was really, it started with just creating a general use policy for members of the public to be informed of basic rules and regulations of our volleyball courts, but it really expanded into much more. Right now, the maintenance procedures for the commercial zone, which is considered 10th to 15th on the beach, which is where we program all of our classes, leagues, camps, special events. That area is maintained by the city. Any courts outside of that are maintained by members of the community. So it's really looking into that practice, trying to maybe formalize that practice. I mean, really, it's kind of just past practice at this point. There's no policy, there's no agreement with those who maintain those courts. So that's really how the project expanded, and it's really looped in our public works department. So big projects. We're really hoping to advance the work on these. We also have a lot done on the volleyball court use policy. We did create a stakeholder group consisting of not only event producers and volleyball instructors, but also strand homeowners and just members of the volleyball community. We have developed a general use policy, but really the remaining piece on that is reviewing the maintenance procedures. So I just wanted to give some background on those two subcommittees for our new commissioners, just so you know where we're at and what the scope of work is for those. Doesn't necessarily pertain to this item, just some information. So going on to the next slide, regarding the youth program subcommittee. So if the commission does choose to establish such a subcommittee, staff would recommend that the subcommittee really be tasked with developing a youth stakeholder group, and they would meet on a quarterly basis with the subcommittee and a staff liaison over the course of 1 year to really review and discuss the city's youth programs. We want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our youth community. Following each meeting, the subcommittee would work with staff to really prepare an informational staff report summarizing those meetings that we would then present to the commission for its review. At the end of a 1 year period, staff would recommend that the subcommittee make a recommendation to the commission to really honestly just evaluating the effectiveness of the subcommittee's process and outcomes over that year, and if the commission should consider either decommissioning the subcommittee at that point, creating a designated seat on the commission for a youth member of the community, or even establishing a youth advisory commission consisting of 5 youth members from the community. That's pretty common in other cities to have a youth advisory commission, so, or council, it could be called commission or council. Next slide. That does conclude my verbal staff report, and I am available for any questions the commission may have.
Thank you. Tom, do you have some thoughts? I know this was your idea.
Yeah, this arose because during the park master plan process, we did reach out to the schools. We had a very productive meeting with, and I get there, it was the middle school, so they were teens. They came very prepared. They had excellent ideas. And we're going to try to incorporate some of them as we go forward, as we walk through the park master plan. But it struck me that in our neighboring communities, Manhattan Beach has a teen seat on their commission. Redondo and Torrance both have youth commissions that are there to give advice and suggestions with respect to programming in the parks. It's a wonderful opportunity for our teens, you know, the ones that want to participate and, you know, learn a little bit about how the government works. I mean, you know, this is a wonderful opportunity for them. It's a tremendous source of information for us. We have great programming at the senior center. It is, I can't say how great programming this is. I mean, it's got everything, and there are additional ideas we've heard that I'm sure you'll incorporate. We're not as good as when it comes to non-organized sports. So we're not as good with the kids when it comes to, you know, what would they like to do? What sort of activities would they like to see? What sort of contracted classes would interest them? I mean, that's what I would hope we could do. And then, you know, the kids are in the parks, so I'm sure they have some pretty good suggestions about, you know, how to improve the parks. So yes, that's why I suggested this. You know, it could be time consuming, and certainly we would need to reach out to our neighboring communities and go and see how their youth councils work. We would need to set up meetings with the schools. You probably want to reach out to maybe the Scouts or to like Little League and youth basketball. So I appreciate it could be time consuming. I mean, that's what I would say. As far as a year, I mean, it doesn't have to start immediately. You know, we could do like the first quarterly report in December, right? Get everybody a little breathing room because there's so much work to be done on other items. So that's what I was thinking.
Todd?
Yeah, I did have a question about this one. And I guess generally about subcommittees. When we form, is there a point in which a subcommittee formation that a charter is written that explains the goals of the subcommittee, like in clear language, and maybe the timing expected and things like that?
So my practice has typically been, I'll do a general, these are the tasks of the subcommittee, and you know, those who are on a subcommittee know, I'll go and I'll create a more detailed plan and scope of work for the subcommittee that outlines specific steps, really. So that's kind of been the practice, is from this item, like this agenda item, and kind of giving an overview of what the responsibilities will be, I'll dive into an even more detailed scope of work. But right now it really is establishing that youth stakeholder group, having those quarterly meetings, and really evaluating.
For the purposes of, I've heard, for the purposes of getting direct youth feedback on the city's program offerings for youth and potential changes.
Correct.
As well as direct youth feedback on parks and facilities from the youth and getting feedback and ideas for change, right? Like,
Yes.
that's kind of what we're talking about? Okay.
I'm a little bit confused about this. Do we already have these subcommittees on volleyball and municipal lease, and we're just replacing the people that are no longer on the commission, or are
No, those are two committees that are, subcommittees that are in existence, the municipal
Okay.
lease policy and the volleyball court use policy. We have one seat open essentially on the municipal lease policy, so we'll come back in August about this. I'm sorry, about filling that seat, but this item is only focusing on creating a new subcommittee, a new youth program subcommittee.
Okay, and we're not choosing people to be on that subcommittee?
The youth programs we are tonight.
Tonight.
We're asking the commission to consider the creation and nominating someone to serve on that.
And it's two people?
Two
correct?
people.
Okay, I would like to put my name in for the youth subcommittee.
Great. First of all, Tom and I were in the room with these kids, and we were, as he said, we were blown away by their ability to communicate in such a clear and concise manner. I will give Dr. Johnson credit for allowing for helping these kids come up with a program where they could come in at lunch and try and make a difference. And they really challenged us with their wants and their needs. So I give Tom credit for this idea. And since I already serve on a commission, I'm on a subcommittee right now, I will not put my name in, but I am a little jealous. So thank you.
I love this idea. I talked at length with the Manhattan Beach Parks and Rec Commissioner, and to sort of better understand how their process works and how their youth seat has a vote. The one thing that I can say in terms of the way we're talking about structuring it, I don't have a problem with the quarterly report, but I would really encourage you to have the youth give it rather than it come from staff. So that they feel that they're a part of the commission, along with the subcommittee. We've got, whoever is on the subcommittee, we give our report if there's a report to be given, and I would highly suggest that maybe the youth be involved in presenting that report to the commission if it's on a quarterly basis or however often that is. And then obviously moving forward, we can decide if we want to decommission it, give them a seat. But that really stuck out to me, that they should be more involved in the commission if they're going to be part of the subcommittee.
Excellent idea.
Todd?
Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of this initiative. I mean, I don't know how many of you know that I coach 13 and 14-year-olds in baseball, so I've been doing that for many years. So very familiar with working with youth, and I would be happy to be involved in whatever capacity is appropriate. I also do a lot of want needs analysis work in my day job, so very comfortable with facilitating workshops and things like that.
So it sounds like we have 3 people, which would be Elka, Tom, and Todd. You guys could be a band. Lisa, what do we do now?
We'll need nominations and a motion.
I would like to nominate Tom Maroney on this subcommittee. I think he's got a lot of ideas. So, thank you.
I'll second the Todd Maroney nomination, as I'm already. I said Tom Maroney. Well, I'm working on a cold here.
And if we could separate the motion, I believe, Kaylin, is that going to be?
I already separated them.
Oh, you
in
separated it. Okay.
anticipation.
Yeah,
So
so we
one
can go
person-
one by one. Yeah.
Okay, so
So we can vote on the first and second that's on the floor for Tom to serve on the subcommittee.
okay.
And to approve this. So we need a motion.
Well, we need to also, and approve the creation of a subcommittee.
So should we do that
So,
first?
yes, I have, my first motion is here to consider, or do we want to, are we approving? So we're going to approve the subcommittee? If so, I will change this.
So it'll be 3 motions.
Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. Motion carries unanimously. I now have the motion to nominate Commissioner Maroney to serve on the Youth Programs Subcommittee. Voting is now open.
All right, see, now is the hard part, though. I
Sorry, I'm just waiting on Commissioner Warner on the last vote. Motion carries unanimously.
I'm positive that either Elka or Todd can do this and that we would work well together. And I have no idea how we do that unless you want to flip a coin.
Well, I mean, I'm happy to, help you with the facilitation and the workshop type stuff if that's, and not necessarily be on the subcommittee. I don't know if that's allowed, but.
Yeah, we can do that, Ken. We got to watch the Brown Act.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to be careful with that, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I would,
But the things I'm thinking about are where the participants actually generate all the content and you're just facilitating that discussion to come up with some output that they can then reflect on. So it's not really don't think there's much Brown Act risk there.
right, so I would nominate Commissioner Warner for the second seat on the subcommittee.
I'll second that.
Voting is now open.
Should we be voting on this?
Yes, yes.
I'm not getting the update.
I can take a verbal vote from you, Commissioner Warner, if you'd like.
Okay, yes.
Voting is now closed. Motion carries unanimously.
Great. Yay. Okay, next is future agenda items. Does anyone have any thoughts, wishes, or desires?
I do.
Thank you, Tracy.
I think we should bring the Bark for a Park back as a future agenda item. And I think it should be, agendized so that we can get more public comment. I think it should be about whether we want to form a subcommittee and work towards the discussion as to whether or not it's a feasible idea for the city and how it would work. But I think it deserves a bigger conversation at a later date.
Yeah, I agree that it deserves a subcommittee, and it's going to take, again, it's going to take work. I had this conversation with you. I mean,
Yeah.
what's going to be on our plate in the next year is going to be a lot. But this deserves a subcommittee, and we should pursue it.
Did you have
So-
something to say?
Yes, I just want to clarify. So the item that I'm bringing back is the consideration of creation of a subcommittee for a dog park. And then one of the tasks would be to work with the Bark for a Park group, community group.
Yes.
Okay. And so 2 commissioners have supported that. That's an informational item. For it to be an action item, we need to have more than 2 commissioners support it.
I'll support it.
Wonderful.
Excellent. Okay, so last is we don't need any public comment because we didn't run out of time. Adjournment, and Tracy has asked to adjourn the meeting tonight.
Thank you. I would like to adjourn the meeting in honor and recognition of the many years of dedicated service by Commissioners Yanni Lang and Lauren Pizer-Maines. Yanni and Lauren served this commission, the city, and the residents, I think, for 12 years. In that time, the commission and city council made Surfers Walk of Fame an institution, an event celebrated by thousands. Our beach concerts came back. The Clark Building is so close to reopening, we learned tonight. We have a special events policy guide, a naming policy, long-term agreements with beloved and treasured events in our city, and we have pickleball courts. Yanni and Lauren touched all of these and countless more improvements, events, and policies in our city. Their heart, dedication, intelligence, and legacy of work will not be forgotten. Personally, I've learned so much sitting alongside them, and I am the better for it. We are all the better for it. They set the bar high. Thank you, Yanni and Lauren. Thank you for dedicating countless hours to our city and residents. You can be very proud of everything you've accomplished and how you've helped shape our city. We know this isn't the end of the road in your service, and we adjourn this meeting in heartfelt thanks and recognition of all your great work on this commission.
Very well said. I will adjourn tonight's meeting to our next meeting of August 5th, 2025. Good night.
Very well said.